nerds. It is Saturday, May 15th. It's 11:26 in the morning, and we are recording very early today. But first of all, I would like to celebrate my co-host Drew's birthday month.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Hello, Drew.
Hi.
Welcome to Be Twin Nerds. Thank you guys for all the support. We've been getting some usage on the hashtag Educator Nerds.
Shout out to John Venegas for such a bomb-ass fucking episode last week. Our ReZero episode clocked in at over 4 fucking hours. But it's worth it because that is our most day one downloads ever of any numbered episode. So we knocked it out of the fucking park, and it's thanks to somebody as well versed in his fan base as John. You know what I mean? That shit was fucking fire. And
that's why I want to have CJ back in the podcast.
1000%
for One Piece. So CJ, if you're listening to this, get ready for the next arc. I mean, I know you don't have to watch it because obviously, but yeah, today, guys, I hope everybody's been practicing your JoJo stances, because today we're talking about part 1 and part 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which covers
Phantom Blood.
Yeah, Phantom Blood and Battle Tendencies.
Right. So we watched the season 1 release as it was released and how it's listed on Crunchyroll, Netflix, and everything else. Meaning, so the first 10 episodes were Phantom Blood. The second 15 episodes were Battle Tendencies. We are learning more about the Joestar bloodline to include Jonathan and Joseph. Young Joseph, best JoJo as far as I'm concerned.
Old Joseph's pretty good too.
Old Joseph's just he's a meme, you know what I mean? He was already
comic relief.
Right. He, even in his own arcing story, he was such a meme in and of itself. But by the time you get to part 3, which we hope we'll get to eventually, because you know what I mean? Season 1's kind of a placeholder for season 2. Because yes, it's exciting, you're introduced to these new characters, you're expected to care about all these family names that are gonna carry on for 300 years. But at a certain point, you just want to see giant, crazy-ass stands beat the shit out of each other. Yeah,
if you've never seen JoJo's, you can definitely jump into part 3, which is very visually awesome, and you're not gonna...
You're not punished for it.
Yeah, you're not punished for it. But if you want to get into the lore of who the Joestars are, the tattoos, the body replacements, the everything, it's nice to watch. I really like JoJo's Phantom Blood, because that's the first introduction to Dio, which we'll get into.
Yeah, at its core, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure started off as a ripoff of Fist of the North Star, and eventually turned into a Gucci photo shoot.
Yeah, you're completely right. And I never seen that anime, but I know the meme of it, that, oh, you're already dead.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about it before, maybe during Nerd Downs. The late 80s, early 90s, especially when it came to shonen, everything was just a ripoff of Fist of the North Star. And which is almost funny, because Fist of the North Star now, doesn't even hold up. Nobody's rewatching Fist of the North Star right now. You know what I mean?
I think you brought it up in the Berserk episode, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's almost funny how the influence of Fist of the North Star has lasted longer than the show and the hype around it itself. And the reason why I partially brought up the Gucci photo shoot thing is that Hirohiko Araki, the mangaka here, he's written all 9 parts of JoJo's, but he's one of the he's got one of the most acolytes of and awards of any mangaka we've covered. He's the only manga author to be featured in the Louvre. He had an entire what's it called? When you have multiple works up inside of a museum.
A gallery?
Yes. He had his own gallery. It was called Rohan at the Louvre, which is Rohan's the...
Exhibition, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But Rohan's the mangaka character from Par 4, from Diamond is Unbreakable, who's just a representation of Araki in his own manga. And he also did a collaborative work with Gucci. He worked on the Gucci store in Shinjuku. And he hosted the Gucci and Hidehoki Araki and Spur Rohan Kishibe goes to Gucci exhibition. So like this dude is like a high fashion, high model, like kind of guy, and you could tell that even in these early parts of JoJo's. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. And I mean, for anyone that hasn't even heard of JoJo's or anything, yeah, I'm sure you've gone across like, you know, JoJo poses that you're not sure that are a JoJo reference. But I mean, I was telling my girl that like he takes a lot of inspiration from fashion, and then likewise, because now with his drawings of this crazy stance, now you start seeing this new pattern in like fashion magazines.
And he's in love with like 80s American culture.
Like Prince, right?
Prince. There's like almost every JoJo pose is stolen from David Bowie. Like David, like he must have studied every David Bowie photo shoot ever, because like almost all of them end up being JoJo poses at a certain point. The most famous one, which is like the hip out, like hand over the face kind of one, that's a David Bowie thing. There are villains called AC/DC. Every villain is named after like an 80s band.
Yeah, AC/DC. Yeah, it's weird.
Dio and like all of them. Wham.
Huh, I never thought about
Wamu is Wham.
I forgot about Dio. Yeah. Huh.
That's what I'm saying. And it's cool because it's like the definition of a shonen means for boys, right? It's just supposed to be a hyper masculated like slim on story, like punch people in the face kind of thing. But as JoJo's went along, it's clear that he no longer felt tied to like being hyper masculine. And like probably the most famous part of JoJo's at this point is part 5, Golden Wind, and that's like the most hyper feminized version of JoJo's yet. Like all these dudes are like badass fucking bros, but the character models have shifted. Yeah. They all look like runway models. You know what I mean? Like open jackets, giant pink suits, and
very delicate movements and stuff, you know?
And you compare that to like episode fucking 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where all these characters are 300 pounds for no fucking reason.
And they don't start like that, because they start a little younger.
Right. Excuse me.
But, yeah, it is crazy because the anime itself, like you were saying, it has like the outlet of pop culture, also the net of pop culture as you're watching it.
And I think that's why the anime, well, the David production version of the anime, because there was a short anime release back in the 90s, which wasn't all that popular. But the David production version of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is so good because it follows like the energy of JoJo, like the manga, so well. Like the music and the opening themes are like super 80s, and like these great guitar riffs. And what's like the ending song to
At the Roundabout?
Yes, At the Roundabout. You know what I mean? Like excellent fucking choice.
Fuck yeah.
And even then, it's showing you that the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure story is cyclical. Because each JoJo is kind of just running into the same fucking story and fighting the same villains to a certain point.
Yeah, and you have this almost like Back to the Future kind of universe where there's different versions of yourself throughout time and stuff like that. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, every like JoJo's almost like a reincarnation of each other. Except there is an alternate universe of JoJo's. Like once we get to part 7,
there's
it's
a JoJo verse.
Right, it's a whole different universe. And Phantom Blood is the story. I hate watching the first 2 episodes of Phantom Blood. Like it's just so annoying because the core plot is, it starts off with just like a carriage in the mud and that fell off a mountain face or something like that.
No, a shipwreck, right?
No, it's a carriage.
It's a carriage? Oh, okay.
Because that's how
that's where Jonathan and
that's where baby Jonathan and I don't even remember
the mom and the dad.
Yeah, Papa Joestar and the mom, like, so this carriage falls off a mountain face, right? And it's this rich affluent family. It's the Joestar family. And this guy, last name Brando, the father of Dio Brando, finds them, and he thinks everyone died in the crash, including like the driver and like the 3 passengers.
And he was there to loot.
Yeah, he was there to loot.
And like right now in the first episode, like the character design alone is trying to tell you, oh, this guy's bad.
Yeah,
like it's just some teeth. Rugged fucking guy. Yeah, ugly teeth, popped eye, like crazy.
And it is England too, so like they all have bad teeth anyways. But But yeah, it's exactly what it is. So he's trying to like take off this super expensive ring off Mr. Joestar's hand, and he grabs him. He's like, "Oh, my wife, the baby, are they okay?" And Brando just like, not even realizing that this dude was alive, is like, "Oh, they're dead, but the baby's alive. It won't stop crying." And Joestar here is such a good guy that he's just like, "Oh, you must be here to save me. Thank you for going out of your way to help protect me and my family in our time of need." And he like dedicates, like any help he would need to this Brando guy.
Correct.
And so that baby is Jonathan Joestar. He's our first JoJo. And he grows up without a mother. And by the end of episode 1, we're introduced to our villain, who's Dio Brando, who's the son of the Brando that helped, air quotes, rescue Jonathan's dad. And Dio's dad tells Dio, like, "Hey, the Joestars owe me a fucking favor. I'm dying.
Yeah.
Go live with them and they'll give you everything you need."
Yeah, but we know that Dio's situation, obviously, the Joestar family, they're wealthy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So they're well off. So we see now Dio almost, quote unquote, taking care of his dad in his deathbed as he's coughing up a lung and shit. And then the dad gets very violent. He's like, "Hey, bring me another fucking bottle. Stop being useless. And then it triggers the useless, like he does.
Yeah, and that's like the running theme of Dio. Even up to like the end of part 3 is just whenever he gets mad, it's just like useless. And there's even in the manga, there's the famous kanji for malice.
Menacing. Oh yeah, malice.
And menacing too. So it's like the anime will even show those running kanji along the sides when like bad things are happening. It's like malice, menacing.
Yeah, like just like you would see in the manga. And so he tells him, the dad tells him, like, "Here, take this letter and take it to the Joestars and you'll be good." It's like, just make sure you get their money and shit, something like that, right? He also says something like that, doesn't he?
I can't even remember.
It's like get your own, like get your worth or something like that. I don't know. He says, he has a piece of dialogue where he's like, make sure you can get him from all that you can.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, try to leech as much as you can.
Because he did grow up poor in London, and like they make London sound, especially late 19th century, like a super fucking shithole. Like they go out of their way to be like, no, only like the slums and like really scummy people live in London. And that's why Dio knows how to fight, because he was growing up in bars and like he was always having to box his fucking dad because he was such an alcoholic, trying to beat the shit out of him. And so the end of episode 1 is the famous pose of teenage Dio jumping out of this carriage and like landing super weird. Like it's the hero pose from fucking Deadpool. The hero landing. Yeah, the hero landing. And Jonathan's just standing there in front of his mansion with his dog. He's just like, "What the fuck is that? Like, who's this weird ass blonde kid that just pulled up?" And
in these 2 episodes, I mean, they're trying to give as much context. So we know that the Jojo has a dog that he really cares about. As he gets out of the carriage, Dio, the dog is not even doing anything. The Dio gets close enough. Danny gets close enough, and Dio just fucking pops him in the fucking face with a knee, right? Or something.
Yeah, just like how a dog, like just even a friendly dog will kind of like just walk up to you and start sniffing you. Dio, just being a fucking cunt, just punches the shit out of Danny. And he's just all limping and like arfing on the ground, and it's super sad. Like right away, you're like, dude, this is like the worst human being in the world.
Yeah, it sets the mood really quick. It's like, whoa, okay, what a dick.
Because
and then Jojo is like, "Yo, what the fuck did you do to my dog?" And he's like, "What the fuck?" And they're about to go fisticuffs, as his dad calls it, and
because they're supposed to be like old timey British,
fisticuffs, and his dad comes, Papa Joestar comes out, and he's like, Jojo, that's no way of rating our guest, blah, 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 what's wrong? And then Dio apologizes. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, the dog came at me and it was just my reflexes, which is bullshit.
Yeah, it was just complete bullshit.
Yeah, and it just sets the mood from there, because even Jojo's like, what? It's like, did you just lie?
In episode 1, too, we do know Jonathan's kind of a loner. Like, at this point in his life as a teenager, like, he'd be, like, his family has influence and he's super wealthy and everyone knows who the Joestars are. But whenever he's just like hanging out with his dog, like out in the field by himself, like kids like try to bully him or try to make fun of him. And they try to make him seem like such a righteous guy, like he's fucking Superman in episode 1, because there's this girl that's getting bullied by just some random hoodlums, and Jonathan runs in and he's like, I'll defend you, and he just gets his ass beat. Yeah. And that ends up being Arena Pendleton, and she's really important.
Correct. And there's this piece of dialogue in that episode where Arena's like, oh, thank you. And he's like, I didn't do it for you. I did it because I'm a gentleman. And a gentleman is going to put himself in front of trouble even if he's going to lose. Very anime. It turns very anime, especially in the dub. It almost sounds like Speed Racer.
I don't like the dub voices, because the thing about these American voice actors is they are deathly afraid to go extra with it. Because originally, there was like a 4-year gap between the dub and the subs being released. Mm-hmm. So originally, I'd watch the sub, obviously, because that was all that was available for like 4 years. But the thing about watching the dub this week, because I wanted to compare the two, is that the thing about JoJo's is that you need to be as extra as possible. Like, even if it sounds ridiculous and over the top, every piece of dialogue, literally every piece of dialogue needs to be delivered at an 11. These American voice actors are completely terrified to turn it up to 11. And even JoJo's being at an 8 or a 9 dialogue-wise just doesn't fit. It's not right.
Yeah, we see that later on in the part that you were telling me about the Sapelli family. But so anyways, Dio's a dick, kicks the dog, right? Then Papa Joestar does this whole exposition to the whole manor that they're like, hey, this is my son. You're gonna treat him as my son, blah, blah, blah. We owe their family.
He's talking to the help.
Yeah, he's talking, all the staff in the mansion.
Right.
And
George Joestar.
George, that's his name?
Yes.
George Joestar. There you go. And he tells them, like, we owe this big debt to their family, so you treat him as my son. And just Dio, full ape shit against Jojo. He's like, oh, I'm going to ruin this kid's life.
Yeah. Like,
no reason. No motive.
I'm going to completely ruin this guy's life. Just to be a dick about it. Because later in the episode, like, I guess in 19th century England, they would just have, like, boxing matches in a field for fun. And Jonathan, he's getting big, you know what I mean? He's like fit and he's super agile. And so he's like one of the best boxers, so he's ready for his bout. And then at the last minute, Dio gets subbed in and he ends up being a dirty fucking boxer. Because, okay, he does know how to fight because he was in like bar brawls and stuff in London, but he's beating the shit out of Jonathan. And it's still like a gentleman's fight. So the first one to get hit in the face, like the fight's just over. Yeah. And so Dio dodges, punches Jonathan in the face, and then shoves his fucking thumb in Jonathan's eye.
Yeah, and then he drives his thumb. But between this like punch is like as a viewer, it's like maybe 20 seconds of dialogue. Yeah. But he's just punching him and he's like, I fucking hate you, Jojo, and here's my thumb in your eye.
I'm here to embarrass you in front of all your friends and make you look like a pussy in front of everybody.
Yeah, so he flips him like a burger and fucking everybody starts going around Dio because they're like, holy shit, that was cool. And he's like, oh yeah, I learned it, growing up in the slums, blah, blah, blah.
No, he didn't admit to that. He was like, oh, that's a secret technique. Maybe I'll teach it to you later. Because Dio's full of shit. You know what I mean? He doesn't want anybody to know that he grew up broke.
And then he has that piece of dialogue where, I'll teach you guys if you guys want to, but don't tell Jojo because he's a snitch.
Yeah, and now everyone's against Jojo because he just keeps repeating this narrative that Jonathan's a snitch.
About nothing. Like, there's nothing to snitch. Like, you can't be a snitch if you don't have information to snitch. You know what I'm saying? So there's nothing there. He just said, oh, he's a snitch. And I think that's a mistranslation, probably, of, like, maybe he can't keep a secret.
I can't remember what it was in the sub. Yeah. Like, he just can't keep a secret or something like that. But because later on, like the same group of boys that were bullying Arena in episode 1 are still like fucking with JoJo, and he's trying to talk to Arena, but then the boys walk by and they're like, "Get the fuck out of here, you snitch ass Joestar. Dio told us to stay the fuck away from you." But the thing about that scene is like JoJo doesn't even care because he's like infatuated with this Arena chick. But then Dio's passing by and he notices that. And he notices that Jonathan just has this big ass smile. And he's like, "Oh, Jonathan must like that girl. That means I need to ruin everything between them."
And very fucking... Well, a little bit before that, we had... because JoJo does get outcasted by being called a snitch, and then we have a little montage of like Arena and them hanging out because Arena gave back the handkerchief that he had when he first defended her, and like they were just like hanging out
because he's rich and has an embroidered fucking handkerchief.
Yeah, and throughout that time, I guess Dio notices a smile on his face. Like, why is he smiling? Why is he having a good day? When
what I'm a here, bro!
When I'm here to fuck his day up, why is he smiling? So then he follows him with his hoodlums and bumps into Arena. He's like, "Oh, you're the reason he's not having a bad day." And very fucking assaulty. Like, he just kisses her. Like, I don't know. It was fucking weird. Like, he grabbed her, very violent, grabbed her, and he started like talking to her about something, and then he just like makes out with her.
It's literal sexual assault.
Yeah.
And like the thing about it is he did it in such a way that like Jonathan could see from like a distance, and that would like turn Jonathan off from like Arena, because Jonathan had even written on a tree in a heart with an arrow going through it, J+E.
Yeah.
So then Dio's like especially like, "Oh, I'm gonna fuck this up so fucking good." Like,
and it's fucking 1800 fucking England. You know
it's like 1880 or something.
Yeah, so, you know, like, the piece of dialogue is like, you thought you were gonna have your first kiss with JoJo, but it was me, Dio, and then we get like the whole meme of like, it was me, Dio, and you know, it's very important.
It was me, Dio,
for lyric, like for as a reading perspective, a literature perspective, it's important for you to know that was important to them.
You know what I'm barely realizing? What I kind of love about JoJo so fucking much? And it's because we just keep repeating these memes. It's the callbacks. The callbacks are so fucking fire. Because 2 weeks ago, I was talking about How I Met Your Mother and how I love the callbacks from How I Met Your Mother. One of the greatest thing about JoJo's is like, even like completely different characters 5 seasons later, they're still doing not even narrative callbacks, just pieces of dialogue callbacks. And you're like, Dio said that in episode 2.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that, and it's so just hilarious because what you don't even realize until you watch JoJo's is how much that almost every other anime takes a little bit from JoJo's. Like, I was watching No Game No Life maybe 4 years ago, which is an isekai about playing games in another world, right? And there's a whole like 20-second scene in episode 1 of No Game No Life that's a stand battle. And like it's almost like a joke within itself because it's not actually happening in the narrative, but it's just a JoJo callback just because fucking JoJo's. Yeah, just because JoJo's.
And it just gets fucking crazy because then Arena like stops talking to JoJo because of the embarrassment of her being like almost deflowered.
Yeah, she's been like defiled, so it's like, oh, now I'm not worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's there's a, maybe not for kissing, but there's a similar like narrative structure in like Game of Thrones where it's like, if you were to have, even if it was consensual and but your family's a nobody, if you have consensual sex with like a woman from a noble family, like, that family has enough influence and reason to kill you because you're so much of a fucking nobody that you have like sullied their family line.
Yeah, you can't be telling everybody.
Yeah. So there's even stories in A Song of Ice and Fire where like a girl will like lose her virginity to like a fucking cook or something, and she'll somehow just get like married at the last second to a random nobleman and just shipped out because now she's the family embarrassment.
Yeah. Damn. That's fucking crazy. And then, where do we go from here?
So basically the boys grow up. They're...
Oh yeah, we have a time gap.
Yeah, there's a time gap of like 6 years or something like that. And, so now it's like their last year of like high school or something. They don't even call it high school, but like they say like, oh, the boys are about to go to university because the beginning of like, I think it's like episode
like boating school or whatever,
3 or something like that. It's a rugby game.
Yeah.
So it's Jonathan, and we're reintroduced to grown-up Jonathan. And they're like, oh, he's 198 centimeters, he's 250 pounds. Like,
it looks massive.
Yeah,
like,
they're trying to write him, like, just draw a hunk. Like, yeah. Which, when I was telling you before we turned the mic on, I did some conversions just while watching this episode. Of like, 198 centimeters is like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
And by American standards, that's tall, don't get me wrong, but like, that's barely an NBA player.
No, that's an NBA player.
Okay, it's like solidly an NBA player.
Yeah.
Though. Like, you wouldn't, if you saw somebody 6'6", you'd be like, oh, you're tall, but you wouldn't be like, we have 6'8", 6'9" people, you know what I mean? There's 7-foot people like in the NBA that play like constantly.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, they start to draw the Jonathan and Dio, like, the size of their shoulder is now the size of like a head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like the screen placement, you have like the entire middle section and even more of that of just JoJo's fucking like chest frame while he's running towards the goal, and they just make him look fucking huge as fuck.
He's got like a 30-inch waist, but he wears a 60-inch jacket.
And he's got like 6 dudes on top of him trying to take him down, so he's just running.
Because it's rugby, right? Yeah. So it's like American football, sort of, except
Australian, I believe. Austrian, I believe. I don't know. Rugby. It's cool.
But So they're still tackling. That's my point. So, like, what you're talking about is, like, he's trying to get to the goal line. Everyone's tackling him, but he's this super massive yoked-ass dude. And now we know he's smart because he's gonna go, like, study history and archaeology at university or whatever. Which, like, that person doesn't exist. But whatever, anime. So, but then, so JoJo's getting tackled. He's about to put his knee on the ground. So again, same rules as football. If your knee falls, you're down. So at the last second, he throws the rugby ball and Dio catches it. And they're just like, oh, that's his best friend, Dio. And he's also 6'6", 250 pounds, and he's super smart, and he's about to go to university too. And, the thing about JoJo's inner dialogue right here is he wanted to get the final goal in his last play of his high school rugby game so that he could just like graduate with that. And so it like hurt him a little bit that like Dio got the last goal.
But he did it for the team.
Yeah, but he did it for the team, which again shows like Jonathan's character. Yeah. Like he didn't care. Like at the end of the day, he just wants to help everybody and win the game.
And as the audience, when you're like, "Oh, that's his best friend Dio," you're like, "What? We just went from this
when?
to we just went from this to like macking on his girl to like, oh, they're best buddies now."
Yep.
And yeah, so like I believe like there's some sort of like inner dialogue of JoJo, and he's like, I still remember what Dio did and all this shit, right?
Well, what we didn't even talk about. They fight. So, like, Jonathan confronts Dio at the mansion after Dio kisses Arena. He's like, yo, you little pussy, I'm tired of you fucking with me. Like, you're gonna fucking get your ass beat now. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and Dio, he still thinks he can outfight him, right? So he's just wailing on Jonathan, and Jonathan's kind of getting his ass kicked, and you're like, again? Not again, Jonathan.
Yeah, come on.
But then, there's a piece of inner dialogue from Dio that's something like, he's using his rage and his inner energy and will to like push back against me, and now he's starting to beat my ass. So then you just see it's the main fighting power in the first 2 parts in season 1 is called Hamon. And in certain frames it almost looks like ki energy from fucking Dragon Ball. Like, it's just like the energy around somebody.
Yeah, like Nan as well.
Yeah, like Nan. All those. They're all the same fucking energy system. But this is like the first time we maybe almost see Hamon without actually calling it Hamon, because we get like a yellow aura around Jonathan for like...
Of his anger?
Yeah, for like a whole frame.
But that's good that you point that out, because I didn't notice this, but that aura that you see on that raged JoJo, it's not as control as when you see it when he's using Hamon.
Yeah, it looks more like liquid and fire.
So it looks more like an out of control Hamon.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. So he's able to just start beating the shit out of Dio. You know what I mean? Like bloody noses. He knocks a mask off of the wall, which we didn't even talk about when we were talking about episode 1. But like, there's a stone mask that was found in the carriage when the JoJo's fell off the mountain face or whatever.
Yeah.
And right here, Dio's like bleeding everywhere, and he's getting blood. There's blood getting from his face all over the walls, and it gets on this mask that's on the wall, this stone mask. Mm-hmm. And what we see is that like when blood gets on it, spikes come out of the back, and it pops off the wall. Mm-hmm. And the only person that notices in this episode is Jonathan. Because he's walking away and he notices the mask on the ground and he's like, oh, that's weird. How'd that get there? Mm-hmm. Because George Joestar catches them fighting. And, but Dio almost stabs Jonathan right here.
Yeah, because he gets mad. He gets mad at some point because...
he's getting his ass beat.
Dio wanted to do the same thumb move on
Jonathan.
On JoJo. But when he has his fist on his head, on his face... Jonathan, like, with thick-ass neck, like, just, like, pulls back his fist, and that's when the beating starts on Dio. And after that, he gets angry, and he pulls out a fucking, like, switchblade, and he's about to fucking stab him. And then, yeah, you're right, fucking Papa Joestar comes in, and he's like, yo, I know you guys are fun to fisticuffs or whatever.
I know young boys like to solve their problems with fisticuffs, but let's not do that here.
Yeah, like, no fucking... But he gets mad at Dio for pulling a knife, because he sees the knife.
Does he see the knife?
I think so. Doesn't he have a piece of dialogue?
I don't think he sees the knife, because I think he gets mad at Jonathan, because he sees, like, it's a very one-sided fight at this point in the fight, and Dio still has the fight behind his back. He hasn't even revealed it to Jonathan yet. Mm-hmm. And Dio, in his inner monologue, he's like, fuck you. Like, if you're gonna be like this, I'm just gonna fucking murder you right now. And that's when George pops out. And so when George is talking, like, Dio still has the knife behind his back.
That's right.
So and Jonathan almost got, like, murdered in his own fucking house right here by a guest.
But JoJo, he gets yelled at because the dad was like, yo, don't you notice, like, he's already beat down? Is like, chill the fuck out.
Yeah, he's like, it's okay if boys fight to solve their problems or whatever, but at a certain point, when somebody's clearly lost, you kind of just stop. Mm-hmm. But Jonathan was just so sick of Dio's shit, like, which, you don't blame him, you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna bully somebody like that who's this giant monster, like, maybe you should expect that a little bit. But anyways, so back to the time skip that we were talking about. George is sick. He's bedridden at this point. It's 1888 and he's very ill and bedridden. And there's a bunch of doctors and medicine and all this shit, and but he's not getting any better. But what Jonathan notices at a certain point is that Dio has been the one taking George his medicine. Yeah.
And then a little bit before that, there's a piece of dialogue where they're both at their dad's, quote unquote, dad's, Dio's stepdad. They're at his bedside and they're like, hey kids, I'm getting very sick. And then Jojo is like, hey dad, I think you should go to the hospital. Like, you should go. It's like, you should go see these doctors. And then Dio's like, no, it's like, you should rest, blah, blah, blah. And then George says a piece of dialogue along, like, yeah, being at home, it's healing me. I feel like I'm getting better, but he's not. Yeah. But then, like you said, throughout this whole time that he's been sick, Jojo notices that Dio was the one delivering the medicine to his dad.
And the reason why is because, like, the main butler for the mansion is an old man and he doesn't like to climb the stairs anymore.
Which we saw in the first episode.
Right, yeah. Right. So now this dude's 6 years older and it's just even worse. So Jonathan almost gets another confrontation with Dio. He grabs the piece of medicine, which is like in a folded piece of paper. It looks like drugs more than anything. Well, I guess it is drugs.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have capsules to give you the medicine, so it will be like a little powder.
So you really do gotta dissolve it in water. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So yeah. So 19th century medicine. He grabs it. He's like, I'm gonna have some doctors look at this because I know you're full of shit and I know this is poison.
He travels across the world. It's like, bro, it's like, you could go to the local science guy?
Which there weren't. Well, he goes to London.
Yeah, he goes to London.
But, like, yeah.
He seems very overkill.
It's like 2-3 hours away. He even has to tell his dad, like, yo, I'm traveling so far to London. I'm going to be gone for, like, 2 days. Please don't freak out. Mm-hmm. And
he hires extra help.
Extra doctors
and extra bodyguards almost.
Yeah, he's like, we're protecting George. Like, I don't trust Dio for shit.
So, because he's gonna leave, and he's like, Dad, don't accept anything from anyone unless it's from this man right here. It's like,
not from Dio,
not from the butler, not from anybody. Like, these men are gonna take care of you, and I'll be back in a couple of days.
Well, even before that, wow, there's so much going on. So we know JoJo has an interest in archaeology. He is studying the stone mask, and he's trying to figure out where it's from. And while going through his family library, he finds a letter from Dio's dad, and it's from Dario Brando, and it's talking about how he's dying of the exact same symptoms that George has.
Yeah.
And that's again when JoJo's like, yo, Dio's really fucking poisoning my dad, isn't he? Because he did the same to his dad, and now he's doing the same to my dad. So, like, that's like some real fucking serial murder type of shit. To think, like he knows he got away with it the first time.
Yeah.
And he's just willing to do it the exact same way another time.
And then on JoJo's account, because throughout this whole time, he is like, his dad has like this multiple pieces of dialogue where he's like, Jojo, why can't you be like Dio? Jojo, why can't you be like Dio? You're my son and you have my blood, and you disgrace the bloodline. Why can't you be more like Dio?
Because he doesn't act like a real gentleman. Like, especially at dinner, he's like, he's a wild animal. He's a kid. You know what I mean? And
that's what I like about the first season of JoJo, because we don't see that character development in the next JoJo's.
No, not at all. Well, maybe we get the background for what's his face from Golden Wind.
Giorno.
Yeah, where he grew up on the streets and stuff.
Okay, that one probably pushes a little bit more, but yeah, like the what is it, part 3 and battle tendencies.
Yeah, really... yeah, they're just like yoked ass 18-year-old, deal with it. Like,
yeah, and so now that JoJo has grown more as a person and stuff like that, like, his father is not as hard on him, but he's still hard on both of them. He
expects a lot, but he's like still proud of them. He's like, oh, I raised such good boys. Yeah, they're such good gentlemen boys. One of them's murdering me.
Yeah, one of them's murdering me. Anyways, yes. So fucking JoJo.
He goes to London. He goes to the Ogre Alley. What's it called? Something. He goes to like the shadiest fucking alley in all of London, where he knows that all the drug dealers are hanging out. And we have London's Ogre Street. Yeah.
We have the side story of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, it's going on in the background. Like, and we don't even know why it's happening.
Yeah.
The beginning of like episodes 2 and 3, it's just like Jack the Ripper was scouring London and murdering people. And
was he just a fiction story? Was that real?
He was a real murderer, but like the
Jack the Ripper story is the fiction, right? But the Sherlock Holmes guy, right?
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Because I was telling you in the other episode, Jack the Ripper was presumed to be of like a rich family because of the cuts that he did were so precise and so well done when he was cutting up these women.
Yeah.
But anyways, we have that sub story, and like, yeah.
Well, it's because he becomes a villain in like episode like 6.
Yeah, and not like a top tier villain, but like a bottom tier villain.
It's annoying that they're building him up because like he's gone in like an episode.
They make him into a cat some point, part cat, part dog. It's weird.
I don't understand. Anyways, so we're down in Ogre Street. We get a piece of dialogue from Jonathan right here, and he's like, "Oh, this is my 3rd day in London. If I don't figure out like where Dio's buying this medicine from now, I have to go back home empty-handed. My dad's just gonna die."
Right. So at this point, we know that he's been jumping from place to places, asking people about poison.
Yeah, we know he's on a timeline because even his Uber driver, the guy in the carriage, is like, I'm not driving down fucking Ogre Street, dude. Like, there's no way. And at this point, they draw, like, JoJo's drawn even fucking bigger because, like, it's cold, right? It's like London in, like, winter.
At night.
So it's fucking freezing, but they put him in, like, this super tight-ass leather jacket. And and he's wearing, like, scarves and a hat, and he's just, like... It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
And
he's
also wearing like a Sherlock Holmes kind of hat with a double cap on the back, and I mean rim on the front and rim on the back.
Exactly.
And
he almost gets jumped in the alley.
Yeah, we get jumped by some hoodlums, which when we get introduced to, in my opinion, the best girl to our protagonist,
Speedwagon,
Mr. Speedwagon himself.
Because so it's 3 guys, right? And clearly this one guy with like a top hat is like the leader of this small group.
The most crazy character design out of the 3 of them.
He's drawn with a mullet. He's a blonde. He's like a 6 foot tall blonde man with a mullet,
with a scar in his eye,
with a scar over his
top
face.
hat. He just looks like the main character of a fucking...
He looks ridiculous. Yeah. But, like, he also looks like fucking David Bowie. That's what I'm saying. Every character is modeled after David Bowie at some point. And so Jonathan, he's beating the shit out of these guys, and they're pulling out knives, and they're doing all this crazy shit. And Jonathan, like, he's purposely choosing not to kill them. Like, even Speedwagon in the background watching these fights, he's like, yo, this dude's ginormous, and he could, like, give anybody a massive brain contusion right now if he really wanted to.
Yeah, just pop his head open.
Yeah, but he's still pulling his punches. Why is he doing that?
And proceeds to attack him.
Yeah. and which, like, the way he attacks is so ridiculous because it comes out of nowhere too. He just grabs his top hat, and the rim
falls off.
Yeah, the rim of the hat turns into like these giant blades. So then it looks like the hat from fucking Mortal Kombat that what's his face has.
Kung Lao.
Yeah, that Kung Lao has.
Or like the old school James Bond.
What it did remind me of is Peaky Blinders, because in Peaky Blinders they were a razor gang and they would hide razors inside of their hats. So that's what that reminded me of.
Okay, that makes sense.
Anyways, so he fucking Kung Lao's this fucking razor hat, and it's spinning, and it's like lodged in Jonathan's fucking forearm.
Massive forearm. Yeah.
And we get a ridiculous piece of dialogue from Speedwagon right here that's like, he's so strong, he's flexing his muscles so that the blade doesn't go further into his forearm. This man's a monster.
Yeah, because like he's stopping the bleeding by flexing his forearm or something like that. Oh, dude, it is so crazy.
Oh,
man.
It's
like,
so stupid.
So my girlfriend, she's starting to she likes the entire like confrontations of early Dio and early JoJo, but then at some point she's like, I'm out. She's like, this.
Once it actually gets good, she's like, this is too anime for me.
This is too anime. I'm like, this is the best part of the fucking anime.
And that's what I'm saying. I hate the first two parts. I hate the drama.
You love to hate it. You love to hate it so much.
No, I hate the drama. I hate the first two episodes. I hate the fucking Dio Jonathan drama.
Oh, what I was saying is like, you love to hate like this anime moments that they have.
Oh yeah,
you
absolutely. Like you're like purposely not supposed to take them too seriously.
Like you get like pena ajena. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what pena ajena is? It's like when you get embarrassed from somebody else.
What? That's a term?
Yeah, like pena, like tener pena is being embarrassed. So pena ajena, like ajena means from another. So imagine you were embarrassed and I'm embarrassed for you.
What's the term for that? Is that an idiom?
No. It's just pena ajena. It's a proper way to say it.
Oh, that's the proper way to say it. Oh, excuse me. I don't know. That's wild. I feel like the more I learn about Spanish, like the more like literally half of the things I would say normally sound better in Spanish. And
when these characters have these anime speeches and anime moments, you kind of get that blush from somebody else.
It's like secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah, secondhand embarrassment. There you go. Exactly, secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah. It's because that's exactly what happens here. Because Speedwagon just starts like metaphorically sucking Jonathan's dick right here. He's just like, yo, he's such a gentleman and he's super yoked and strong. I want to be his best friend.
Yeah. And he proceeds to help him, right?
Yeah, he's like, "What's up, dude? Why are you in Ogre Street?" Because like the whole alley wants to jump him now, and Speedwagon is the boss of everybody. Apparently, he's just like, "Back up, guys!
Chill the fuck out.
That's my man. Like, everyone chill out."
And then he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for this poison. Oh, this poison. Oh, yeah, we know this guy.
There's this creepy Chinese man at the end of the alley."
Which very problematic, like character design on him, because he does look like might as well be Fu Manchu from like old school Marvel.
Yeah, or like any of the Chinese characters from Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the worst. No, not the movie. The movie's excellent. I love the movie.
We talked about this last time.
I love Big Trouble in Little China. It's probably one of my most like rewatched 80s movies. Fuck, what point was I trying? They say Chinese man too because he's like
China man.
Yeah. It's super ignorant, but like purposely ignorant. So is it really like? Should I be offended by it? I don't know. It hits like this weird gray area of like storytelling that's like
And honestly, for like the time period that this is supposed to be based on, I mean, it could be worse.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
There's like, yeah, you're completely right, because like even by the time we get to part 2,
or the beginning of part 3, when it's already 89 and we have old man Joseph Joestar, and he's like is very aggressive towards a Japanese person in the airport.
Well, what I was gonna say is by part 2, one of the characters you're most rooting for is a literal Nazi.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, even in season 1, you're hitting for, like, this super weird gray area about, like, who you're really supposed to root for.
You're having
and, like,
mixed feelings with Nazis, guys. Come on.
Yeah. The Nazis are super important good guys in part 2.
Yeah. But stay with us.
Anyways, okay,
sense.
so we got the poison. We know it's being poisoned.
Yes.
And so Jonathan with Speedwagon, because it's his new boyfriend, they rush back to the mansion and they're like, we gotta go rescue my dad. Dio's full of shit and he's trying to poison my dad. But at that same time, we get a cut of Dio in London because he's trying to figure out where Jonathan is and trying to stop him and all that shit. But he has the mask with him.
Because he wants to kill him with a mask. At this point,
because he saw that the spikes come out of the mask, so he thought that, like, it'll literally just puncture your brain and you'll die.
Yeah, we don't know anything about the mask at this point. But yes, he is in London around the same time Jojo's there.
Yeah. And he's drunk. He's drunk off his ass, and he hates himself for it.
Yeah, because now we have this inner dialogue of him like, look at me, I'm like passed out drunk in this alley. He's like my dad is like, I don't have a son to fucking come get me or anything like that. And it's very crazy. It's very like, whoa, dude. It's like it's because he's a psychopath, and we didn't even talk about Danny's death. After the last fight, before the time skipped, Dio gets so angry that he puts Danny in a box. The dog, and then he puts him in the furnace, and then the butler, not knowingly that there was a fucking dog.
Yeah, he just sees a box in the furnace, so he's just doing his job. He's like, okay, this is
probably trash. Yeah, and then he just continues to burn it, and he burns the fucking dog alive in the furnace. Yeah. And it's just fucking crazy. And then we get back to this piece of dialogue here when he's drunk in an alley, and then some hoodlums try to fucking...
Well, I want to stick to... I did have one more point about the being drunk in the alley thing. I think it's wild that, like... I've known multiple people that, like, swear up and down Well, I remember this when I was, like, in high school. You know what I mean? There's... Especially when you're a teenager, like, some people... Never me, don't get me wrong. Have, like, certain animosities about certain traits about their parents. Mm-hmm. But it's... You know what I mean? Like... At a certain point, it's the nurture versus nature argument.
Correct.
And even if you're nurtured in such a way that, like, you swear you'll never get these negative, like, aspects about yourself, like, your genetic disposition is still going to produce a phenotypic expression that will express, like, these parts that you swore you hated about your parents. And what makes you is also all the bad parts that made you about your parent. And Dio, like, just is trying to shed, like, every part of, like, his family name, his former life, and he's trying to be somebody that's totally just not himself.
Like, he can't escape it.
Yes, he can't escape it. It's his genetic disposition.
And,
you know what I mean?
And at some point, for a lot of people, it becomes something that eats up at you. It eats up, and you have to just let it go. You just have to...
It's called going to therapy, guys.
It's called going to therapy, and everybody's gonna have your destructive tendencies, but you have to counter with something for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, anyways, very crazy part of that.
So yeah, you're right. Like, Dio's about to get jumped in the alley. Mm-hmm. Same shit.
He's fucking drunk. He barely can, like, defend himself.
London sounds fucking scary. Yeah. Like, every alley you go in, you're getting fucking jumped.
Yeah, no guns, just knives. Just fuck
always
it.
Knives.
Yeah.
So yeah, these two random drunks are coming by, and they see Dio all fucked up, and he seems like an easy mark, and they're like, hey pussy, give us your wallet and give us that bottle, you weird ass drunk. But Dio's still, you know what I mean, he's 6'6", 250 pounds. He beats some shit with some dudes if he has to. So he just starts wailing on these guys, and for fun he's like, I'm gonna murder one of them with this mask that has spikes that come out of it. So he, like, puts it over this one dude's face, gets his own blood on it, and, like, the spikes hit this dude's brain, and he's like, cool, I murdered somebody. The mask really murders people. This is excellent.
You mean the mask that has spikes go through your head and kills people? Oh, it does.
It does. This is great. Now I can kill Jonathan with this.
And it's like practicing on small animals before you go full murder.
Bro, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Like, Dio's a straight psychopath. But so what happens is this guy turns into a vampire. That's the main villains for, like, the first, like, 4 parts of JoJo's. We're fighting fucking vampires.
And it's a vampire, but I mean, when I think about vampire, when I think about like the vampire lore, I think about like, you know, Papa Dracula. Dracula is the dad of all the vampires, and so on and so on and so
Obviously,
on.
yeah.
Right. So the way that JoJo, the writer, the creator, is telling this vampire thing, it's through that mask.
Yes.
You know, so it is vampires. They're very awesome vampires because they become like Dracula, super strength, you know, can't be in the sunlight. I'm gonna eat you up. But then, like, the way that they suck blood, it's like through like
they can stick their fingers in your fucking jugular and like literally suck the juices out of your body. So like the victims of these vampire feedings is just like a fleshy, not even flesh, it's just like a skin husk. Mm-hmm. It's just like this little piece of rubber on the floor that used to be a person because all the liquids got sucked out of it.
It reminds me of the anti-marijuana propaganda commercial when
you don't want to be locked into the couch like this.
Yeah, and the girl's like, that's all she does now, and she's all like chilling.
Yeah, me too, bro. Yeah, me too, bro.
And anyways, he's like, holy fuck, it's like, this is not only gonna kill JoJo, but he might turn him into this fucking thing because he's having this confrontation like at the break of dawn. So he's about to get eaten by this fucking guy that he just turned into a vampire, but then the sun comes out.
Because Dio started getting his ass kicked by the vampire for a second. He's like, yo, what the fuck? I just beat the shit out of this guy and now he's super strong and fast. I'm about to die. But you're right. The sun comes up. Dawn happens and like the vampire dissipates because sunlight.
Mm-hmm. Because sunlight, yeah, of course. And then at this point, we
go back to Jonathan, like, rushing back to the mansion.
Yeah, and then Dio's already there.
Yeah, Dio's already there. And so Jonathan shows up with Speedwagon and the cops, and they're ready to arrest Dio. And so they confront him, and they grab George Joestar, and they're like, yo, Dad, come on, like, we gotta protect you from Dio. And he's like, what's going on? He still thinks of Dio like his second son, you know what I mean? Like, that's his son, that's his child.
Yeah.
But like Jonathan has to explain to him, he's like, no, dude, like, you are dying because Dio is a fucking asshole. And they confront him, and Dio, he makes like an emotional play right here. Because he tries, like, crying in front of Jonathan and everybody. And he's like, I'm sorry. I know I'm an asshole. I know I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah, because JoJo delivers all the information. So they have police and everybody waiting for Dio. And then Dio, turns into, like, this fucking, you know, crocodile tears act. He's like, oh, but if you must take me to jail, I would like JoJo to put the handcuffs on me, and this was just gonna be a shot to get him stabbed again.
Yeah, and I honestly, I googled the definition of crocodile tears the other day because I was trying to explain to Karen because she'd never heard that expression before, and it's literally just like giant fake tears, and that's what he's doing right here. Like, he's just trying to create an opening out of Jonathan, but so what he ends up doing is he puts the mask on himself and turns himself into a vampire right here. And all the cops in the background don't know what the fuck is happening, so they're just like, open fire, open fire, open fire.
They blast this fool out the window, big old mansion windows, big old dramatic scene. George gets stabbed right before Dio fucking gets shut out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's dying. He already dead. He's like, hey, dude.
He's bleeding out. Yeah.
It's like he expresses himself to. I mean, he almost explains himself to JoJo because he's just like, I know I was hard on you, and but the only reason I was hard on you the most is because you're a Joestar. Dio is not my son, and he always wanted a father figure.
Yeah.
But I wasn't it, apparently, because he was trying to murder me.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like, take my ring. This is your mother's ring. Take her ring and just like live out your life. It's like, it's over because we just saw Dio like get popped like outside the window.
Right.
But we know that we're not done here.
Yeah, we know he's a vampire.
It's fucking episode 8, guys. Come on.
This is like episode 5. Like
episode 5?
Yeah. So what ends up happening is, like, of course, Vampire Dio comes back, and now he's just gonna murder everybody. He just starts murking all these cops.
He kicks the head, like the top part of the head, and he leaves like the bottom jaw down. Like, he kicks it off a police officer.
Right.
Dude, that animation looks so crazy. And we're talking about gore like we did last time.
JoJo has light gore.
Yeah, it has light gore, but it has good gore.
Yeah,
it has
it's
good
really
scenes.
tasteful.
Yeah. Tasteful.
It's gonna be, like, just in certain pieces. And Jonathan, well, so all the cops are dead, basically. So it's just Jonathan and Speedwagon left. But Jonathan's big idea is that he figures that he is a vampire, or Dio is so cocky that he gives an exposition dump and he's like, now I'm a vampire and you can't beat me. And Jonathan's like, what? He's really a vampire? How do I beat a vampire? So they decide to do it with fire. So Jonathan burns the whole fucking mansion down to try to burn, like, Dio down with it.
And I would like to put a little bit more context on this little part right before the fire, that he's protecting Speedwagon. Yeah. Speedwagon is like holding, like, behind Joe, like, and again, this is going towards my conclusion that he's like best girl for fucking Jonathan at this point. Mm-hmm. And then but yeah, he's like, oh, and then he leads Dio away from Speedwagon so Speedwagon can get out as he lights the fire.
Right. And the same crazy ass scene, like the iconic scene of Dio walking up like a 90-degree straight vertical wall that's in the opening scene happens right here. And it's because Jonathan's on the second level and he's trying to, like, taunt Dio. And Dio is so strong now as a vampire. He's straight just kicking holes into the wall and walking up vertically like
core
that.
Alone. That's a lot of course, right?
Yeah. How are you staying upright like that?
And then just being able to stick your fucking feet in the fucking wall and walking up those fucking stairs. I mean,
it looks crazy. It looks terrifying. You're like, oh, fuck. Yeah. Oh, fuck. And, but yeah, what Jonathan's able to do is he's able to, like, push him off this higher floor, and Dio gets, like, lanced by, like, a statue of a JoJo with a sword that's on the bottom floor.
It's like the family statue, or like the guardian of the family statue or something like that.
Yeah. So it reminds you of, like, the
stake through the heart.
Yeah, the stake through the heart of the vampire thing. And so at a certain point, well, obviously I knew watching it this week that wasn't the end. But at a certain point, you're almost like, oh, okay, he might be dead.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, go Jonathan, we did it.
Yeah.
And so the mansion burns down. Jonathan has a fuck ton of burns. He jumps out the fucking balcony, and
we presume Dio dead.
We're supposed to presume Dio dead. And this is the next episode is where we get a scene that you were talking about that has a really weird, like, difference in translation between the sub and the dub.
And the only reason I keep bringing this up is because there's pieces of dialogue that point to this particular, like, behavior.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So what's happening is somehow Speedwagon, even though he was
concerned.
Even though he was a hoodlum in London, he has money, so he has his own mansion. So he has Jonathan staying at his place while he recovers, which is, again, a big ass mansion. But Arena's there, and she's tending to Jonathan's wound because every inch of him is fucking burned to shit.
And he's a big ass dude, so that's a lot of bandages.
That's a lot of bandages. It's a big ass dude.
Yeah.
Like, and Speedwagon is gonna go inside the room and, like, through a crack, he sees Arena. He's like, oh, who is this girl? So how long should she been here? And then he takes a look at Jonathan. It's like, oh, he's pretty bandaged up. It's like she must be here for a while now. And then he also notices that her fingers are raw to the touch because of the warm water that she's been using to clean his wounds. And yeah, there's this piece of dialogue where it's almost envious, you know. In the sub, it reads something like, oh, okay, I'll leave two lovers be or something. But in the dub, it's something like, oh, I'm disappointed that I don't get to go in there or something like that.
She makes a better caretaker than
a better Florence Nightingale than I do.
Uh-huh.
And so Speedwagon walks away. In both, he still walks away disappointed.
Uh-huh.
But the context difference is that, like, in the dub, it makes it seem more like Speedwagon really wanted to go in there and be the caretaker, that, like, be the first person Jonathan saw.
Yeah, in a love interest kind of way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And anyways, yeah, we know that Arena got dibs on JoJo. Because they even have this piece of dialogue where, like, he's like, oh, because they haven't talked this whole time. They haven't talked. This is the first time they meet.
Yeah,
afterwards.
Yeah, it's been the whole 6 years without seeing each other.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, you look like a person I used to know. Oh, what's her name? Happened to be Arena what is it?
Pettingale or something.
Pettingale, whatever. And he's like, oh yeah.
Pendleton.
And then and they have, like, this little, you know, moment, and they're like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, so like obviously that's gonna be the love interest from here on out.
Yeah.
Like from now on, he's like living his life for Arena.
But for a split second in this episode, and this is the beginning of the episode, but for a split second, you get like a lover's triangle here. Almost like just for a split second, and you can miss it. You can miss it if you're not paying attention. But it is brought up in the second part in Battle Tendencies.
Yeah, it makes like zero sense. But anyways, now we're like in episode 4. Going into episode 5, and we finally get like the power system for season 1 of JoJo's.
We meet the Zeppelins.
Yeah, we meet the Zeppelins. So like they go, JoJo and Arena are going for a walk because he feels better.
There's all crutched.
Yeah, he's all fucked up. He has a million fucking 3rd-degree burns on him.
His arm's broken.
But they meet this weird fucking Italian dude just sitting on a ledge in the middle of the English Valley. And they're like, who the fuck is this weirdo? And he's wearing an all-white suit and a black and white checkered top hat.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck is this? Even the characters in this weird-ass anime are like, this is the weirdest dude I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah.
I have no idea who this is.
And it has to do with the dialogue, as in like, I haven't seen somebody from Italy before. You know? But the anime is like, that's how somebody from Italy looks in this world, you know? It's like
every Italian character, it does look ridiculous in this. Every Italian character for the next 8 seasons looks absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, this is Will A. Zeppeli. He is here because he is hunting the stone mask that turned Dio into a vampire. He follows the teachings of Hamon, and what that is, it's they don't even explain it properly, but it's supposed to be like some loose power. It's a way of breathing that gives you supernatural powers, sort of. It's
like breathing forms from like Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
So you get like, if you have, and it's funny because there's another piece of dialogue later on Battle Tendencies where he's like, oh, he sucked out his lungs. Lungs are very useful for Hammond users. I'm like, lungs are useful for everybody, dude. Like, what do you mean?
I remember that too.
But anyways, yeah, so it's a way of breathing, and the way we meet Zeppeli is that he just fucking, boom, hits him in the diaphragm.
Yeah.
And just knocks him out. He's out of breath, and he's like, yo, I just woke up Hammond in you. Like, you're welcome.
Right. So he gives a little piece of Hamon, this magical energy, to JoJo, and that's able to like heal his burns and relocate his arm and like reset his forearm that was broken. And now he's like, whoa, I feel way better. I feel great. And now that's where he's immediately, JoJo, even though he's with the new love of his life, he's just like, teach me, Will Zeppeli. Teach me. I need to learn how to fucking beat the shit out of Dio.
Because there's this, he also does like this move on a frog. He's like, look what I can do. And then he like focuses his hum on and like just, it looks like he's gonna smash a frog in a rock.
Right, so he's over this creek. There's a giant, not a giant, but there's like a
toad.
Yeah, but there's a rock in the middle of the creek, and then there's this big ass toad on top of it. So he, again, yeah, like what you're saying, he focuses the Hamon into his fist, and the way they animate the Hamon is it looks like electrical little bolts.
Yeah.
Almost like when they go Super Saiyan 2. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how you're supposed to know they're Super Saiyan 2, because now there's like the little lightning streaks coming out of the Super Saiyan field, whatever. So what he's trying to show is that Hamon, if used properly, can pass through like living beings that you're trying to protect and can destroy stuff on the bottom, because he's able to destroy the big ass rock but like keep the toad intact.
It almost reminds me of Zoro's technique of like a great swordsman can cut or not cut something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what it reminds me of.
Zoro from One Piece.
Yeah, Zoro from One Piece. But yeah, so he smashes this fucking frog and just splits the fuck. It's like
we just get a weird piece of animation from the frog because he's being squished still. Yeah. So he's just like squished on the rock, but you see like his big ass eyes looking up. He's like, what's going on?
But the rock splits open and then the frog just swims away. Probably later on died of a concussion. I don't know. But yeah, so he's like, teach me. And I can't remember. Did they go through like this little montage of him like training?
Right, and that's my issue. That's what I wanted to bring up. That's my issue with part 1 and how it's treated in the anime. We don't have a sense of time from here on out. Like all. Because, like, you're right. There's a training montage of JoJo and Zeppeli, like, in the stream, and they're fucking learning to walk on water with Hamon uses. Like, it's like Naruto when they walk on water or something like that. But because they don't give us a sense of time on how long he's doing this, if you're watching the anime just throughout, it seems like a day passed, and all of a sudden he's a fucking Hamon master.
Yeah.
And he can go fight Dio.
And he's really good. But throughout this montage, they're also traveling at the same time to look for.
But see, that's
Dio.
what I mean. It's vague. We don't know. Like, it's always in a creek whenever they're training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, they are.
As far as we know, like a day's pass. But like, and that's my. Well, I said that was my issue from here on out. But it's even worse when you think about part 1 and how it's treated in season 1. Like, part 1 ends on episode 10. Mm-hmm. If we're on episode 4, the whole actual plot and all the fighting and all the villains happen in the next 6, not even 6, the next 5 episodes. Because, like, by the end of episode 9, we have a conclusion to the story. So, like, the emotional weight that you're supposed to have for a lot of the characters that introduce and a lot of the deaths that happen from here on out, it's almost like...
It kind of dissipates.
Yeah, it seems forced, because it's like, dude, I've known this character for an episode, like, I don't really give a fuck. But anyways, we're around, like, episode 4, but by the end of episode 4, from the training, Jonathan is able to learn his new superpowered Hamon technique, Overdrive, which just looks like a giant electric punch, like from Pokemon or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just a thunder punch. And from like immediately right then, we finally get the payoff for Jack the Ripper.
And like we met Zeppeli with Irina, and at this point Irina just fucked off.
Yeah, they don't even say what happens to Irina. She's just gone.
She just fucks off, and it's just Speedwagon, JoJo. And
exactly. Where did Speedwagon come from?
Yeah,
like,
they just like you said, like the time is very vague because you jump into like this training montage and this also like traveling montage that Irina fucked off from, and now Speedwagon's in here.
Yeah, and we have no idea why Speedwagon's here. Why the fuck would Speedwagon be here? He doesn't use Hamon or anything.
And he's funding the whole thing. He's just paying. He's just like...
Well, he's supposed to be like the stand-in for the audience because he's always just standing in the background of all the fights, explaining what's going on. Exactly, he's the stand-in for the audience, which like narratively doesn't make sense. Like, and
what I said, that he's funding the whole thing and he's paying for everybody's drinks while he watches JoJo and Zeppeli go at it. They steal his luggage, his bag, which contains all the money, and it gets stolen by this little kid, right?
Well, not yet.
Oh, we're not there yet?
We're not yet, because what you're talking about is Poco from the start of episode 5. We're still in episode 4 because we get introduced to Jack the Ripper, and that's where we get the exposition from Jack the Ripper that Dio is creating an undead army. He's creating zombies. So that's...
Vampires.
No. They're zombies.
Oh, they are zombies. They're undead. Yeah.
Yes, so that's what I was going to tell you. That's what I like. Even though, like, what you're saying about the vampires and you like the more traditional, like, horror vampire.
It's not that I like it. It's just that there's not very... you can see it in Blade. In all the vampire stories that we've gotten as far as in the West or Hollywood, it's the Dracula-based story.
Right. So, and this one's, like, completely... But... What I was going to bring up is there's like a horror villain hierarchy here. And that's what I like, because it's like there's the vampire on top, and then everybody under him is a zombie, and then everybody under them is just like even lesser zombies, because like the zombies that are created directly from a vampire are still conscious. The zombies created from other zombies are the mindless zombies from like Walking Dead and shit like that.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the skeleton monsters from like Ocarina of Time.
Exactly. Just these mindless, stupid fucking... And yeah, there's a hierarchy here, and we're starting to see that, like, the power from the mask, like, the farther away, like, the more removed you are from it, like, the less actual power it gives you. Yeah, correct. And so Jack the Ripper is... He's super strong. But this is a test for... on Zeppeli's behalf to see if Jonathan actually knows how to use Hamon now. Because Jack the Ripper's whole plan is he's going to bring him into like this dark ass cave or this dark ass like building or something like that. And it's up to when they walk into the cave, Zeppeli gives Jonathan, as a proper Italian man, a glass of wine. And he's like, here, you have to fight this whole fight without dropping any drop of this glass of wine.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
So it's up to Jonathan to figure out how to fight Jack the Ripper from here, because Jack the Ripper's hiding in the dark, and he can see in the dark because zombie, I don't fucking know. Mm-hmm. But what I'm trying to describe is that Hamon is just treated like whatever it needs to be from here on out. Mm-hmm. Like, it does any property that Araki's basically narrated himself into a corner on. So if Jonathan's caught into the dark, with Hamon, the ripples in the wine glass will like point towards where the villain is, and that's how Jonathan's able to like to figure out where the villain is in the dark.
Yeah, and like if he needed to write a letter really quick to Irina, which he doesn't, and he could do it really quick, he would just use Hamon and concentrate on his arm and just like on his hand and just write a quick letter to Irina and send it off. But he doesn't.
Sometimes it's treated like magnetism.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's treated like electricity. Sometimes it's treated like air current. Sometimes it's treated like, I don't know, like spirit energy. Like it's whatever the story needs it to be. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the gripe, even in current seasons, about JoJo's, is that like, well, before part 7, when it was still being published weekly, is that Araki writing week to week, it was clear, especially by the end of part 5, that he wasn't doing a lot of like pre-work writing. He wasn't writing outlines beforehand. Mm. So as he's writing week to week, he would kind of like fuck himself up because he hadn't already figured out how he was going to get out of the situation. Mm. And that's the issue with I said part 5, but I meant part 6. Part 6 is the part with Jolene. Mm-hmm. Because the thing about part 6, which is coming out as an anime this year, is that the manga had to be published like 2-3 times. Mm-hmm. Because when it was being published weekly, it made zero fucking sense. Like, by the time you get to the last villain, you have literally no idea what's going on. Because it was like Araki was just on a wild-ass shroom trip for like 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. But when they republished it, they tried to reformat it and tried to get him to sit down and be like, hey, what were you
Stop playing around. Yeah.
What were you trying to say on this page? Uh-huh. And it makes a little bit more sense, but it's still super, super confusing. And that's the issue right here, is that like, every villain, the Hamon just does something different.
Mm-hmm. And we haven't gotten to... we still haven't gotten... But I'll bring up an argument with Dragon Ball Z here that... You were saying that JoJo is going to be the new Dragon Ball Z vibe in the next,
Oh, we talked about that like months ago.
Yeah, in the next 10 years, it's going to be like the same kind of vibe. Where I think JoJo differs to Dragon Ball Z is that they're telling a new story with new characters and maybe the same power system or not. And honestly, when the conversation came up, some dude was like, "Oh, do you like Dragon Ball Z?" I'm like, that shit should have ended like 10 years ago. Yeah, and I would love to see other Saiyan stories. And you were saying that Jotaro comes, he's a very big part of part 6. Yeah. And that people don't like that, like let him go already. So I wish, because Dragon Ball doesn't seem like it's gonna end. They don't have an ending. They don't have a plan to end the story.
They're still publishing the manga like every other month or something like that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it's almost like cash grabbing at this point, because like you're really not gonna give us an ending arc to this story.
I agree, and I think that is Akira Toriyama's goal. But the thing about Akira Toriyama is he's fucking 70. So. Yes, yes and no. Like as long, that's what I mean. As long as he can like put pen to page, yes. Mm-hmm. But he's also fucking 70. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
And I think this is where the argument differs, because JoJo is not, well, at least not so much with Jotaro, but they're letting their past characters go. Yeah, like leave Baby Yoda in season 1 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and that's almost like. Because you're right, like every part has a new JoJo, and it's like 50 years in the future of every episode. And like, that's what's exciting, because it's like I get to fall in love with a whole new cast of characters right here. I don't get to hear Krillin bitch about like his bald ass head for the millionth fucking time or something like that. Yeah. And so now that, well, the fight ends with JoJo using Hamon Overdrive, and that's like his new super Hamon power. And that's all we get out of this episode, basically, is just like, oh, JoJo knows super awesome electric punch. This is so great. And this is where we get into the part that you were talking about. Speedwagon, Zeppeli, and JoJo are walking down just like a dirt fucking road in England trying to figure out where Dio is. And a pickpocket named Poco steals the briefcase with all the money in it. And it's up to Zeppeli and JoJo to like use Hamon to run across the water. And JoJo is trying to show like his precise use of Hamon by like doing a Hamon punch on a rock wall. And by precisely using Hamon, the energy's gonna like dissipate to the top, and it's gonna knock the kid over the top, and that's how they're gonna get the briefcase. That's what I mean. Like, Hamon does anything.
Yeah, but when they get across the water, they also use Hamon. But it's funny how they animate it, because Zeppeli's just like, ooh, like tiptoeing over, like
he has his arms raised and like pursed in front of him. He looks like a crane almost, or like a little bird or something. And you're right, like he's tiptoeing, and it looks super awkward. And it's just is that how like just Italians are supposed to act here, or Zeppeli just weird?
It just reminds me of like how a Ginyu Force soldier would go across the fucking river with Hamon. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
So it's just like I don't know, it's fucking funny just to see it. But yeah, Hamon can be fucking anything. Anyways, they get to this fucking kid, and they find out that this kid has been hypnotized.
Yeah, he's been hypnotized.
And he leads them into a
graveyard.
A graveyard, yes.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, is that like the zombies and the vampires start being able to do anything too. Like, Dio's powers at a certain point, you're like, that's not what fucking vampires do. Like, by the time you get to Dio shooting whole ass lasers through his eyeballs, you're like, what the fuck? When the fuck did this happen? Like,
and using his hair.
Yeah, like you're making this shit up. You just want like Dio to just be able to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
And anyway, so that's what happens here. So we're in this graveyard surrounded by like rock pillar faces, even though we were in like flat ground like half an episode ago. And at the top of one of them is Dio. So we see him in his classic Dio pose. He's wearing like hunting boots and a vest, and his arms are across his chest, and he's wearing like a headband, and
menacing.
Yeah, menacing.
Yeah.
And he just gives a whole exposition speech about like how we're in this graveyard because he turned two of these guys into zombies, and they were fighting in the War of the Roses, and their queen died.
We get a whole like almost a berserky backstory.
Yeah.
To where this big old two top tier zombies came from, and it was supposed to be two knights of this particular queen that got killed, and then they got executed, but because they were protecting the queen. But their rage was so strong that the Undertakers broke like 7 axes trying to get through their necks, which I don't know how much anime you can get from there, bro.
Their names are Tarkus and Bruford.
Yes, and one of them's called Pluck. And right, one of them's nickname is Pluck, right? One of the soldiers.
Yeah. I don't even remember which one it was though. That's what I was trying to remember. But so the funny scene we end up getting here is that so I think it's Tarkus. Tarkus starts fighting Jonathan. Right, and Tarkus has like the crazy fucking hair that can fight or whatever, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
But at that same time, Zeppeli, like, realizing that Dio is a product of the mask, which I don't even think we've gotten Zeppeli's backstory on the mask yet, is that he just has this supreme hate for the mask because he's the one that unleashed the mask on the world. So he rushes straight to Dio, and he starts using Hamon. And Dio, like, takes a couple hits because he's like, you can't hurt me, I'm a fucking vampire. But at a certain point, what Dio does is after Zeppeli punches him, he freezes the air around his hand so that, like, the Hamon can't travel through the hand, because everybody knows Hamon can't travel through ice.
Yeah, because obviously Hamon is used through breathing, which then breathing goes into your blood, and if you can use your blood, then you're fucked, boy.
That's what I mean. It's just making shit up on the spot.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly how it feels.
And, Yeah, dude, it turns fucking crazy. But I think on the Zeppeli story, I think his dad, he was a member of the crew of his dad, and his dad was the one that uncaved the mask, and his dad turned into a vampire, destroyed the boat. He was the only survivor of the boat, right? Zeppeli.
The JoJo story loves archaeology for some reason. So yeah, it was an archaeology expedition. It's a bunch of dudes on a boat. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean shit. They find like a cursed treasure chest. Inside of the treasure chest is the mask, and then one of the crewmates couldn't like. He was so tempted by the mask that he put it on, and it turned him into a vampire, and it killed everybody on the ship. And it turned out to be Zeppeli's dad. And Zeppeli's the only person that survived because once the sun rose, his dad died. Yeah. And Zeppeli went to India to learn how to do hamon because of course, like a magical.
Of course, you go to India.
Yeah, of course, a magical breathing technique is derived from Indian. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. JoJo's.
Yeah, JoJo's, and then
hold on. The only reason I'm bringing up this cold hand Zeppeli part
because of main power.
Yeah, it becomes like a main power for Dio. But the funniest part that happens right here is that Speedwagon's just standing in the background being useless, like he's going to be in every fight, right? But he sees that Zeppeli's arm's frozen, and he just lifts up his shirt, and he's like, Mr. Zeppeli, please use my warm body and put your arm against my chest so that we can heat up your arm and you can go punch Dio. So it's just this super erotic scene of these two 250-pound, 300-pound men just rubbing up on each other to get warm so that they can unfreeze Zeppeli's arm.
And it's fucking crazy. It's fucking wild.
It's so stupid.
And Dio fucked off.
Yeah, Dio was just like,
he just leaves he leaves the two soldiers, right? The two big dudes.
Yeah. He leaves
because out of nowhere they try to make an escape. Our main trio, Zeppeli, Speedwagon. No, the boy.
Well, not yet because
don't they do the leave thing?
That's after.
Oh,
that's immediately after. Because like what happens at that same time that Zeppeli's fighting Dio is Jonathan gets dragged underwater by
Pluck,
by Tarkus. Yeah, Pluck, whatever they end up calling him, and because he's a zombie, he doesn't need to breathe underwater, so he's able to just like drag Jonathan down and murder him. And Jonathan, because he can't breathe, he can't use hamon. So the way he gets out of this mess is he's smart enough to realize that there's air vents at the bottom of this creek. So if he breaks a rock, it's going to have an air bubble inside of it. And then for a split second, he can breathe that air bubble, gather his hamon to punch Tarkus in the face.
And it's true. If you pick a big enough rock from the bottom of a creek, they might be a fucking bubble there. and whether you find a big enough rock to sustain some air,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And be strong enough to lift that underwater. And I don't know, it just turns into this fucking crazy, like, I got my power back, and you're underwater for some reason that doesn't help you at all.
Lightning overdrive.
And then he just lightning overdrives, punches through this dude. And he gets sad, and we have, like, this whole, like, demon dying and demon slayer kind of thing where he's like, oh, you were a great warrior. And
honestly, by the end of Demon Slayer, you almost hate that every villain, even though they're all supposed to be demons and they're all supposed to die in the sun, you hate that they always have a dying speech. They always have multiple pages of just explaining about how their life was wasted.
There were once humans, bro. There were once humans, bro.
Oh, God. Anime is so ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah. And from there, we go into this exposition because his body is holding on for some reason. But it's because there's sunlight. The crocodile already happened, right?
No, not yet.
No, not yet?
It's the next two episodes are going to be in the dark. Because next is the leaf scene that you're talking about.
Yeah, but he's after the lightning overdrive, whatever, his body's still holding on because he gained his humanity back for some reason. And then now he has this spiel on, like, he dumps his purse on JoJo. And he's like, oh, dude, you showed me that he was bad and I'm good and now we're all good. And he gives him the sword.
Right.
Which was luck that was given that was giving the sword was given to him by the queen, but then he puts a P on it.
It says luck on it. He writes a P in his blood, and now it says pluck, and he's like, "That's my name. Please take that along with you."
And then he just GGs, and that's it.
You don't even remember. I don't even think
they used the sword. They used the sword once before like the cage fight with the other big dude.
That's so stupid. So yeah, like Zeppeli's big plan here is that they were going to use the power of Hamon to pull a bunch of leaves together, and the
Super Mario their way out of the fucking
right. They're gonna glide off of this mountaintop down to where they think Dio is. But like again, what the fuck about Hamon means that you can put like a bunch of leaves together and like 300-pound men and one child. Well, 3, because like Speedwagon's with them too. So like 3 grown-ass men and a child are able to like glide down off of some leaves.
And that's how powerful Hamon is.
It makes zero sense. It's so stupid. But Bruford is here. And
they end up gliding into like this ancient ruins where warriors used to train.
Tarkus is the big guy.
Tarkus.
Bruford is the other guy.
That's why he put that P on it.
Yes. And it's not lightning overdrive. It's turquoise blue overdrive that kills Bruford. Anyways, so we're going to go fight Tarkus. And he leads them straight to some old building that's where...
warriors used to fight.
It's just like built into this cliff face, and we're still in rural England. Like, where the fuck is this thing?
Castlevania almost.
Yeah. And it's like a torture dungeon on the inside. Like, it's a bunch of chains and like a bunch of like.
Well, I guess the gist of like this battle room, it was to like weed out the weak warriors. So it was a chamber where through a slab of concrete on the roof, on the ceiling, there was a chain coming through it, and that chain was locked into their necks. And like if one of them walks forward, the other one pulls back because of the chain is interconnected, right?
Right.
So that's where we're at right now. The big guy lures
Tarkus lures Jojo in there.
Correct.
And Zeppeli, Speedwagon, and Poco are like trapped on the outside because the door was being closed and Jonathan was able to run in at the last second, and the rest of them's trapped on the outside. So you're right. So Tarkus's big plan is that he puts like the chain around Jojo's neck, and if he pulls too hard on one side, then Jojo won't be able to breathe properly, and then he won't be able to use Hamon and beat Tarkus.
Because Tarkus knows about Hamon.
Yeah, why the fuck would Tarkus know about Hamon? You see what I mean? Like, there's just like big narrative gaps here that literally doesn't make sense. And so the rest of the episode, the rest of the guys are trying to like break their way in, and Jojo's just getting like his ass beat because he can't breathe and he's about to fucking die. But at the very last second, they're able to break in because of Poco, because he's small, and he like opens the door, and we see Zeppeli just stroll in. And that's like the end of like episode 6 is like Poco unlocking the door and Zeppeli walking in, and we know something's about to happen because what's cool about the ending of every JoJo episode is we get like watermarked like expressions on the character's face when it shows that they have like determination at the end of the episode. So that's supposed to get you excited for next episode and being like, oh, Zeppeli's about to fuck this dude up.
And again, what it gets lost, I guess, sometimes when we watch these shows like on streaming services is the anticipation for the next week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're watching this like episode, you're binge watching this, and you don't get the holy fuck, what's gonna happen kind of thing, you know? But I mean, as professionals, quote unquote, we have to imagine.
Fuck. So yeah, Zeppeli, we've only known Zeppeli for like 2-3 episodes, but we're supposed to have like huge narrative weight coming out of Zeppeli right now, because what ends up happening is he starts fighting Bruford, but he gets like straight up murked, like
in the span of 10 seconds. Like, he was in there for 10 seconds and he got trapped.
Yeah. I don't even remember that. Like, half of him gets, like, cut off or something.
So, yeah, Zeppeli goes for an attack on what's his name?
Bruford.
On Bruford. But Bruford, using the extra slack that he had from the chain, because Jojo's, like, just choking up on the fucking ceiling, he gets Zeppeli in a loop by his waist and just traps them both. So now you have fucking Cepelli hanging on the extra slack of the chain, and then you have Jojo on the ceiling, and then he just pulls or something, and he just like rips him apart.
Yeah, it rips him in half, like literal half.
Yeah, and this is where you have like, oh, Krillin died. Yeah. I'm gonna turn Super Saiyan.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Well, Cepelli also gives the last of his Hamon to Jojo, which like I didn't know you could do that. Like, way to make this shit up. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like he's just like, and I don't know how he's speaking with only like half his torso. Like he'd be in shock. Like he'd be passed out and dead. Like you'd bleed out like immediately, bro. Like
I think so.
But so like anime speech at the end, because it's just like kind of anime. So he's just like, I tried my best. I tried to defeat the mask. I couldn't do it. You're my heir. I taught you so much over this training time. And still, that was like 2 episodes ago. So we're still like, I guess. And he just gives him the last of his Hamon, the last of his ki. And Jojo goes Super Saiyan here, rips apart the chain over his neck, and just lightning drives Bruford in the face. And he cries over Cepelli, who he knew for 2 episodes.
Yeah. And we have the first Cepelli death in the Jojo story. And and fucking they get out, and it's sad because fucking Cepelli died. But...
Yeah, you even hear like Speedwagon crying about it. I'm like, I don't even know why you're here, Speedwagon.
Yeah, go get money. Go. Yeah, it's crazy.
And so they are still chasing Dio. Like Cepelli's dead. And we still gotta go to this town where
Castlevania fucking
where Poco's from.
Yeah.
So Poco is like, yeah, that's where Dio's hanging out, is at my hometown. So let's just go there. My sister's probably worried about me anyways. And they go, and then they meet like 2 more like Hamon users. And
it was a master of Cepelli.
Yeah, I'm trying to find their names.
Yeah, it was, oh man. Yeah, because they even dragged to, like, the next part.
Whatever. So, we find, like, Cepelli's old teachers, and they're from India, and they're just like, yeah, Cepelli sent for us, and where is he? Where's he at? Why isn't he here to greet us? And that's where we get the sad scene of like Speedwagon crying, and he's just like, oh, he tried so hard, he died. And fuck.
We head to the mansion. Like we go to the house, the house of the little boy. What's his name? Poco. And then the dad just beats Poco in the head. Is like, where the fuck have you been? Your sister's lost because of you. She went out looking for you, and now she's gone. And blah blah blah.
The teacher's named Tonpetti, and these other students are called Dyer and Strazo. Strazo's the one that's important next part too.
Strazo. There you go. And he gets to his home, and then he tells him, yo, your sister went out looking for you, and she's gone now. What the fuck's going on? But our trio or
there's like 6 of them now.
Yeah, there's like 5 men with this little boy, and they're just waiting outside while he's getting beaten inside, and they're just like, oh, do you think he knows what happened? And then he comes out, he's like, hey, my sister's missing, we have to go look for her. And then obviously Dio has the sister.
Right, obviously Dio's got the sister. Oh, what's her name? Poco's sister? I don't know. And we get like a couple like back-to-back like zombie villains from Dio right here, like back to back. There's like minor zombies that if you were reading the manga like weekly would have seemed pretty cool, because it's like you're spending like several chapters dealing with this one villain. But in the anime, they'll deal with like whole fights in like 10 minutes. So the next one you get is a dude named Doobie. You get this guy with Doobie has like snake bites all over him, and because he has like a bunch of snakes on his person, and that's how he's gonna poison Jojo, and that's how he's gonna beat him. But so the rest of the Hamon users are just watching Jojo fight, and they're like, let's see how good his Hamon is. And you just see Jonathan breathing, and he's like, oh, he's isolating the poison to the wound, he's so good at Hamon.
He's through Hamon, he squeezes the venom out of his neck.
Yeah, makes 0 sense. But I guess because Hamon. Yeah, I guess because Hamon. And again, this fight only takes like 10 minutes. Like Doobie dies like after like 1 punch from Jojo after he gets the poison out. And so they go up to the mansion. They find Poco's sister. She's with Dio. And right away, one of the guys, Dyer, lunges straight at Dio. And he's trying to do like this weird... how was he fighting? He was just walking forward casually. And then he does like this weird kick, like this open splayed kick that knocks Dio's hands outward.
Yeah, so he's opened. Yeah,
so that Dio can't block with his hands. And then Dyer is going to do like a cross attack with Hamon.
It's almost like the Tien fucking...
What is it called?
I can't fucking remember, bro.
I don't remember. But yeah, so he's just going to like vertical slash him across the face with his Hamon. But we forgot that Dio has fucking freezing powers.
And just freezes him instantly. Like neck down, like instantly, like rock solid ice. And he just is standing there. And he just falls and he breaks up. He just fucking breaks. But he ends up rubbing some Hamon on the roses. And he throws the roses at fucking Dio, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. I don't know what to tell you.
It makes no sense. What about any of this? So then, like, JoJo's, like, super pressed about this guy that he's only known for, like, a day dying. Not even a day. He's known him for like hours. We're at the same night.
They saw a little kid get beaten, and that's it.
Yeah. So Jonathan has that pluck sword, and he goes straight for Dio's body, but Dio freezes the sword, and he goes straight for Jonathan's neck with like his fucking
sucking fingers.
Yeah, with his sucking fingers, and he pulls Jonathan's carotid artery out of his neck. And he's playing with it.
He's playing with it. That's what I found so fucking crazy. I was like, I don't remember this. This was straight out like went in, took out the artery without ripping it, it gave it an extra 2 inches out of his neck and just played with it. It's like, oh look, it's so warm.
Oh, it's so ugly.
Nice.
Yeah, and he's like, it's so warm.
And he's like, I can't wait to have your blood be my power, because it works like Cell from Dragon Ball.
And again, it's super homoerotic. Like, there's so many scenes that it like...
And he's just like, yeah, look at this, but... Well, we didn't know because JoJo's a fucking badass. When he pierced with pluck the sword through Dio and froze his arm, he did it in a way that it was the end sticking out of Dio
the end of the sword.
The end of the sword was on top of a like lantern on this like almost what do you call that area?
It's like a balcony outside of the castle. But they have like fucking Castlevania lanterns. Yeah, these big, just extra fucking...
So he's using that heat from that sword to defrost his arm. And then it's a weird piece of dialogue because this... I mean, as a viewer, you're watching this for like 5 seconds. And Dio has this piece of dialogue like, how long has this sword been sitting there? It's like... Nothing. It's like it just happened.
It's been like we've had like 3 fights in the same episode. Like this is all still like episode 8.
But the sword has been there long enough for to completely defrost JoJo's arm, and then he continues to slice up, and we see like this fucking split open on Dio.
Well, the part I hated about this fight is it was clear that Araki had almost made the fight too one-sided. So again, at this last second, he gives Dio another power, and now he can shoot laser beams out of his eye. So, like, you think Dio's dead because Jonathan uses an overdrive attack, punches him, Dio's falling off the balcony. You're like, okay, cool, they did it. And then last second, it's just like, laser beam eyeballs! And, like, it almost goes for Jonathan's fucking neck, but it just pierces his hand instead. It's like, you didn't need that.
Yeah.
Like, he was gonna lose anyways. You really didn't need that.
I guess, yeah, but I guess it comes into place later on because as he falls through the cliff, we get our, like, Chinese poison vendor, which is a zombie now and, like, servant to Dio.
Wang Chen.
Might as well call him China guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Chinaman.
Yeah. So, he gets his body because Dio, as he's falling and he's being like cleansed with Hamon, he cuts his head. Right?
Right, because
he can survive as a vampire as just his head, apparently.
Yeah, and well, we haven't even talked about the Hamon thing either, because you're right, I'm glad you brought that up. It's like, if Hamon passes through a vampire's bloodstream, then they'll all dissipate. But so you're right, like, Dio was smart enough to be like, oh, before it reaches my head, I'll just cut myself at the neck and let Wang Chen at the bottom of the mountain find my head and will get me another body.
Anyways, a big celebratory fucking episode because Jojo thinks he won.
Jojo thinks he won. He marries Arena. We get another, like, maybe a year time skip. Mm-hmm. And Jojo's like the big hero because he spent 3 whole episodes fighting all of Dio's villains, which was only 3 episodes. You know what I mean? Like, the main plot, that's not them being children. Mm-hmm. And the whole time Dio's a vampire is like literally like 3-4 episodes.
And guys, the people that never watched JoJo's, we watched 2 parts. That's 26 episodes. It's not. I mean, the first part has so much, but then it's so short at some time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because we've been talking for this, like, an hour and a half.
We are on episode 9.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
We are on episode 9. We've been talking for an hour and a half.
But this is just one singular part. And there are some moments when you're like, there's story lacking here, but they also give you more story on some other points in the fucking part. You know what I'm saying? In the and arcing story.
The end of episode 9 is probably my favorite part of, like, all of part 1, because so Arena and Jonathan are on a boat across the Atlantic Ocean because they're gonna make a new life as a married couple in America. And what we see is there's this weird ass, like, coffin inside of the boat that was held there as luggage. A drunk man accidentally opens it and out pops Dio's fucking head. And Wang Chen is on the boat. So
been turning people into zombies.
They don't well, because he's a zombie too. Yeah, so he's making, like, lesser zombies because he's a tier 1 zombie. Yeah. So they're at dinner, Jonathan and Arena. And Jonathan's being paranoid. He thinks something's going on. Arena's like, what's up?
He thinks it's too good. Like, he's living the life. He's in the boat on the way to America. And he's just like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And
he senses Dio.
Well, there's a stupid piece of dialogue here. Because they're having dinner. And, like, Jonathan sees a Chinese man. And in his inner monologue, he says, that's a Chinese man. That means Dio's here. And it's so stupid because it's so, like, obvious profiling. It's like every Chinese guy you see has to be the same fucking dude. Yeah. But it does end up being the same fucking dude. So maybe I'm full of shit. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's just... He senses Dio, like, out of nowhere. It just turns, like, Hamon turns into, like, the Force, and he's like, oh, I can sense Dio here in this boat, and yeah, like, he tells Arena, hey, Arena, again, fuck off.
Yeah, he tells her to go back to the cabin and lock the door. He's like, yo, I have to go punch somebody in the face. Go back to the cabin, lock the door.
Right. Again, huge ass fucking dude. Like, he can take it. If a dude like Jojo would tell me, hey, go to the cabin and lock yourself up, I'm gonna take care of this, I'm like, okay, yeah, you got it.
You got it, buddy. Yeah. You go out there. So yeah, he finds Dio's floating fucking amorphized head in the coffin
with the help of
Wang Chen, and it's in like one of the jars from, like,
Futurama.
Futurama, that's what I was gonna say.
I was like, really, bitch? It's like, you're a vampire. Come on.
There's no reason for the jar.
You need to keep hydrated because you're you're metrosexual.
I don't know.
You want to take care of yourself.
Actually, Dio is canon to be bisexual. You learned that in part 6.
Yeah, you told me this.
Because, like, in part 6, the main villain is one of Dio's ex-boyfriends.
And also metrosexual. He has pretty cool outfits.
Yeah. Well, they all kind of do. Yeah. But anyways, so right here, Dio's whole plan to replace his body is he's going to take the only person whose body he respects, which is Jojo. He's like, I want that yoked ass body. I've seen how ginormous and muscular and, like, super fucking, like, sucking his dick fucking piece of dialogue here. Just be like, you are the most godly fucking piece of meat humanness I've ever seen. Your body is now mine.
And it's like this weird ass piece of dialogue because it goes something like, I was so blind all these years and you were there in front of me all along.
It's like a confession of love from Dio to Jojo, bro.
You've always been superior to me, and it took me this long to know that I just need your body.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because he's only a head.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Out of context, it's super sussy.
Yeah, super sussy. fucking Arena comes out and is like, is everything okay?
Yeah, so then JoJo's distracted because now he's got to protect Arena, and that's when JoJo, like...
No, a pregnant woman, a woman holding a baby crushes down the stairs.
That's right.
And then Arena comes in.
Because she's trying to protect the lady with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dio's laser eyeballs, like, cut off JoJo, like, they cut his throat, so he's bleeding out, and he's like, oh no, my throat's cut, I can't breathe, and I can't use Hamon, fuck.
And then, I can't remember how it happens, but he's like, Arena, I'm gone, I love you, just like my mom died protecting me. It's like, go get that baby and protect that baby.
Right.
Of that lady that just fucking died on the stairs holding this baby, and the baby's crying. And we know later on that it's a little baby girl. So Arena's like, holy shit, I fucking love you so much. I just want to die here with you. He's like, no, he's like, please do this for me. So he gets a baby. She gets a baby. They both fuck off. And then there's a piece of dialogue where Jonathan, as the thing is burning, because he used Chang or Wang or whatever.
Wang Chen.
He used his last of his Hamon to use his body to interrupt the piston in the boat. So the steam is like building up and the
boat's gonna explode.
And then anyways, the thing is on fire. And
I don't understand Dio's motivation here. Like, for fucking what?
Well, he's trying to get a body.
Right. I understand the body, but why does the boat have to explode?
Well, that was Jonathan's doing.
Oh, okay,
yeah, that was Jonathan.
Oh, because fire will burn Dio up.
Jonathan just wanted to put Dio in the middle of the ocean at this point. Right. You know what I'm saying? So he then grabs onto Dio's head and holds it with his last of Hamon, I believe, because he's just like embracing him. He's like, I know all you wanted was a daddy, and I'm your daddy. You know what I'm saying? and that's what happened. And that's what happens.
But you're right. You just see this angry fucking Dio head be like, "Fuck you!
What are you doing? Like,
let me go, pussy!"
Yeah, it's like he's trying to convince Jonathan, like, I can turn you into a vampire right now. Let's get the fuck out of here. Like, he's just like embracing Dio's head. He's like, nah, I'm your daddy now. And that fucking thing goes up in flames, and fucking that's the end of our JoJo fucking.
That's the end of part one. That's the end of Jonathan Joestar.
That's the end of Jonathan.
Oh my god, that's so funny. He dies in the most hilarious fucking way, but also the saddest fucking way, because now Arena's like on a raft by herself in the middle of the ocean, being like, oh, he was the greatest man ever. He was such a gentleman, and like he defeated Dio, and look at all the self-sacrifice. Anime.
And which brings us into part 2, battle tendencies, guys. Again, just a quick reminder to use the hashtag #EducatorNerds, which with every use of it and and likes, comments, and retweets, we're gonna donate to the
El Paso Independent School District Foundation, which like not only helps fund in class stuff for EPISD students, but also gives money towards scholarships. Which college is super expensive, but super important. So you know what I mean.
Education is important. Especially for the people that need it. Especially for the people that might just have enough funds to have it, but a little help will do a lot more.
Money's made up anyways by Dogecoin.
Yes, but anyways, part 2, big old time skip.
Big old time, 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. So we are now in 1938.
Yeah, something like
39?
that. 39. Mm-hmm. Like 1938. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're right. If anybody knows about your history and especially war and stuff, it's, in the middle of the Second War.
War.
Between the Nazis and stuff. And again, we brought this up in the beginning. We hate Nazis. We don't like Nazis. We don't like people that act like Nazis. We don't like people that like to just eradicate in a specific,
And I think that's what's so wild, because, so Jonathan's dead. The rest of season 1, we have a different Joestar. We have Joseph Joestar. And the thing about Joseph Joestar is he's super, a carefree dumbass. And the thing about the generation of people that lived through both World War I and World War II is they are called the Lost Generation. Because all the young men in that generation are fucking dead. Right? So how the fuck do we have this happy-go-lucky dumbass named Joseph just walking around living life as he sees fit? In the broader in the broader context, like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but, like, young Joseph is probably my favorite Joestar.
Mm-hmm. And it almost gives you, like, this almost nostalgic feeling of how his attitude is, and, like, a asshole, or not an asshole, but a just carefree kind of guy compared to the gentleman that our previous characters were.
Right, because,
you know
like, even Speedwagon's in this. Like, the beginning of episode 10 starts with, like, a Speedwagon narrative about how he's a billionaire, and he owns the Speedwagon Foundation, and he's funding, like, all these expedition trips, and he's still a gentleman, you know what I mean? He's still like an upright, proper guy. But the thing about Joseph is he's the air quotes American, even though he's not even an American, because like they keep calling him the Englishman like throughout the whole anime.
Because now we're in New York. Now we're in America.
Yeah, we are in New York. And that's originally where Arena and Jonathan were going at the end of episode 9.
Correct.
So now we have like the grandchild of these two people, and Arena's still in this because like we'll meet Joseph.
Grandma Arena.
Yeah, well, we got Grandma Arena in it, and she's like, she's an old lady now, don't get me wrong, and Joseph is such like, it's the exact same body type of his dad, just like this ginormous 6'6" fucking...
Like his brunette.
Yeah, fucking lineman fucking dude, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
No, but I just wanted to bring it back to Arena. She'll like yell at him, and it's just this little old lady being like, "Hey, you better fucking watch your manners and not beat anybody unless like they actually have it coming." And
how we're introduced to our new JoJo, which is Joseph Joestar, is that this kid, what's his name, Smokey. Mm-hmm. Smokey picks his wallet and runs into an alley, but then two fucking pigs fucking get him.
Two cops.
Two cops. And it's like the word pig in the most literal sense, because like the character design of like the main antagonist cop is like a fucking pig.
Yeah. Like he literally almost like you expect him to
give him a snout.
snort.
Yeah, give him a snout and like we're done for. But yeah, he gets Smokey, a black character in 1938 gets pinned down. He's like, what the fuck are you doing here in this side of town? This is not your fucking ghetto. Blah blah blah. It's like, if I see you again over here, I'm gonna kill you.
Which, like, shout out to Araki, bro. Like, you're really bringing in like he's obviously like very well versed in American culture, and he cares a lot about American culture, but he's not afraid to be critical of it.
Absolutely.
Like everything is a callback to like David Bowie and like the 1980s and Prince, and like there's
the movement
and Michael Jackson and just like all that really cool fucking shit. But at the same exact time, like he'll call out American culture on his bullshit. It's just like, I have this one black character, and you just know how he would be treated in New York in 1938. So Joseph walks up.
Which, actually, before we jump in, which brings me to the topic of, like, the name of Smokey. It almost reminds me of this Bill Burr skit that he has on, like, those microaggressions that baseball commentators used to describe, not describe, but, like, nicknames that would give, like, baseball players that weren't white. Oh, he's a firecracker. He was usually Mexican, or, you know, oh, look at him, he's smoky. And
I do hate like recent stuff, like things released within the past like 2-3 years that refer to like spicy Latina or like you know what I mean, like
caliente.
Yeah. You're mad as a Hispanic because you like spicy foods. I don't know.
But again, the cops are now, not only are they being heavily like racist here, they are also extorting the kid. So not only are they racist, they're like, you know, dirty cops.
Yeah, they'll tell him, they'll be like, oh, I'll look this over if you pay me out every week for forever from here on out.
You have to give me $20 a week and half of the shit that you steal.
$20 in 1938 was a lot of money, dude. Fuck you. Like, I am not giving you $20 a week in 1938. You got me fucked up. So Joseph walks up, and that's where we know that he's like the Hamon prodigy. You know, my guy. Like, he walks up and just right away, just like 2 quick punches, but they're Hamon punches without him even like really understanding what Hamon is.
Yeah, correct. And he throws. What does he throw? He throws a hair.
Yeah.
He throws a hair to his finger because the cops, I mean, he pulls up and he's like, yo, what are you doing to this kid? It's like I gave him. You can't arrest somebody for stealing because that's not stolen. I gave it to him.
Yeah.
Right.
He tries to protect Smokey because he sees like what the cops are doing.
Yeah, and even the cops are like, "Well, I'm gonna keep your wallet because this is evidence." Like the dirtiest fucking cop shit. Like if you were to see this on a live camera, like it would be very shitty.
Yeah. It's fuck.
And then he uses. They draw their gun at him, which is already fucked up because, and he throws a hair, I believe, to his finger, and he breaks his finger, and not being able to pull the gun, and then he punches him. He gets Smokey out of there, and they're friends forever. Yeah,
and I kind of hate. I hate and I like Smokey because I think it's cool that they involved like this character with a lot of like racial history behind him right here, but he disappears until like episode 25.
You know what it reminds me of? What is those old cartoons of this blonde boy with a turtleneck and then he had like a small Indian companion?
What?
It's some old school. I can't.
Is it a cartoon?
Yeah, it's a cartoon, and he had an Indian companion. It also reminds me like Indiana Jones as well. Didn't he have like a ethnic companion?
Yeah.
It's I can't remember the name.
What year?
It's old, dude. It's like 40s.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I really have no idea.
So it almost like that. The placement of the character Smokey here, it reminds me of that.
Yeah, and what I did almost want to pick at this part for, besides the whole Smokey thing, is that Joseph already knows Hamon here. Mm-hmm. Because, like, how would he even realize what Hamon is if he never even met his grandpa? Because we get a flashback scene where Joseph is on a plane with Speedwagon, and Speedwagon's a billionaire, and like you see a billionaire traveling on a private jet by himself, you're gonna hijack it. So some hijackers try to overtake this plane, and Joseph is able to like...
He's just chilling there eating dinner.
Yeah, he's just chilling, and he just murks like all the hijackers with Hamon.
Yeah, because the target here is Speedwagon, because he's fucking Jeff Bezos in this fucking world.
Yeah.
So the plane is getting overtaken by this guy. Joseph is chilling, just eating his dinner, because to his theory, or not theory, his reality is like, this is Speedwagon's problem. It's like, right. Why are you including me? It's like, and then the guys get mad, and then they spill something on him. It's like, yo, what the fuck? And that's when he rains on him, and he uses Hamon the same way that Sebeli first used Hamon, and how also Jonathan Joestar used Hamon in the first like very angry fight with Dio. Right. Like an uncontrolled Hamon.
Right. And
but at this point it's made it seem like the Hamon is seeping out of him. Like he's just so strong with Hamon.
Which, if it's a breathing technique, how the fuck would he know that breathing technique? Anyways, it doesn't even matter, because like by the end of episode 10, Joseph is having dinner with Smokey. He's like, "Oh, those cops are fucking assholes. Huh? Fuck them. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll beat the shit out of anybody. Don't even worry about it, bro. I got you." And
we have another racial thing with a guy in the restaurant.
I don't remember what happened here.
Remember the guy in the restaurant's like, "What the hell is this animal doing here?" It's like, "Get him out of here." It's like, "Yo," it's like, the owner said that everybody's money is good here, so chill the fuck out. But he's like, "Nah, fuck you." Yeah. Blah blah blah. And then we get our instances of how our new JoJo Joseph Joestar is so quick on his feet, because he's like, we get that meme of that, and I'll know what you're gonna say next kind of thing. Yeah. You know. And because this guy's being so racist towards Smokey, and Smokey is like almost embarrassing. He tells him like, "Come on, let's just go. I'll just dip out. Yeah, I'll just wait outside or something." He's like, no, fuck that. And then this guy comes up, this big old fat dude again. Like they're trying to portray like, I don't know, greediness and just being a gluttony and stuff. I don't know.
Oh, that's not here.
What do you mean?
You're talking about the dinner at the fancy restaurant where his grandma's there. That's not yet.
Oh, that's not yet?
That's not yet, because they're at like a diner here. after the altercation with the cops.
You're right.
And this is where they see Straizo from part 1, who was one of the Hamon users that trained with Zeppeli. Mm-hmm. But what we know from the flashback at the beginning of episode 10 is that Speedwagon went to Mexico to go see a pillar with magical men inside of it that all looked like they had masks, like the mask that Dio had. And Straizo goes with him, and Straizo murks everybody, takes his magical mask because now he wants to be a vampire because he doesn't want to get old. So him not wanting to get old turns himself into a vampire, and he knows that the greatest threat to the mask users, to the vampires, are the Joestars. So he goes all the way to New York.
Or the Hamon users.
The Hamon users, excuse me. So he goes all the way to New York to punch Joseph in the face. And Joseph sees him right away, and Joseph, again, like, Hamon's also like the Force, and he feels the malice coming off of Straizo.
You're right. Yeah. I completely skipped that diner fight. Yeah, go ahead.
So he meets him outside, and he's like, Straizo, what the fuck's up, dude? Like, I haven't seen you in a while.
I thought you were good.
Yeah, I thought
you raised my mom, my grandma, right?
His grandma was already old, so he helped. Like, he was a friend of the family through his grandmother.
But, it was the father figure of that baby that Arena saved. So that makes it his grandma, right? JoJo's grandma? No, wait.
Straizo helped raise his mom.
Lisa. Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah. Straizo helped raise his mom.
There you go. So, like I said, he sees him. He's like, yo, what the fuck? I thought you were good.
Yeah, and Straizo's just like, no, dude, I gotta kill you. Sorry. And so we get this stupid-ass fucking scene where Joseph pulls a whole-ass Tommy gun out of his fucking back, and he just unloads this whole-ass fucking drum on Straizo.
On the whole diner.
Yeah, on the whole
diner. And he's just like, bah, 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 bah. And then he's like, ha, he's dead. And he's just so, like,
nonchalant
about it. And Smoke is just like, yo, whoa, what the hell, brother?
You just killed it.
Yeah, you just killed a person. And then, obviously, we know that he's gonna get up. He gets up, and he starts talking to JoJo. And there's that dialogue where it's like, oh, we gotta kill you because you're the,
You're the Hamon of the Joestar of the baby of the city.
But we then realize that he's been talking to, like, a mirror, like a reflection of JoJo.
Right. So after, like, all the gunshots and everything, the mirrors and the reflections in this room are all super fucked up, and he thinks he's talking to Joseph. But so he shoots his laser beam attack at what he thinks is Joseph, but it's really his reflection. And Joseph's behind him, actually, and he tries to do a Hamon attack on the back of his fucking big dumbass head. But his scarf, Straizo's scarf, is made up from silk from beetles that are able to insulate the power of Hamon, so it doesn't actually hurt Straizo.
Yeah.
It's just making up reasons to make sure Straizo doesn't die this chapter.
And, like, right here we start seeing, like, the character development of Joseph, because he does another dumbass thing. And at this point you can start noticing that he's a dumbass, but not really until, like, this specific point, because then he gets away from Straizo after releasing a grenade.
Yeah.
And he's like, haha, it's like, look at the other grenades. And he, like, released, like, this whole thread of, like, grenades, and it explodes. But he runs. This is where he runs the first time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, he does, like, a quick motion and tries to feint out Straizo. And he's like, oh, you didn't even realize I'm so fast, and I just left a grenade on you. And Straizo's like, one grenade can't kill me. And he's like, turn around, you're full of grenades.
Yeah, and it explodes. And is that how they get away, or is this where he runs? He runs, right? This is where my next plan is, and then he just fucking takes off?
Yeah. So Joseph goes all the way to the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
And Straizo catches up with him there, but Straizo just pulls in some random girl off the street. And he knows that Joseph, as a Joestar, is just a good person. He's not going to let, like, an innocent victim, like, get killed or some shit like that. Mm-hmm. It's like every fucking Superman plot or every Batman plot.
Any superhero plot.
There's some that wouldn't care. But, like, the big names, you're right. You're right. And Straizo gives like an exposition dump right here. He's talking about the Pillarmen in Mexico. He's talking about the Speedwagon organization and how they're immortal, and he's talking about the German military effort and all this random ass shit. But so he tries to laser eyeball Joseph one more time, and Joseph, because they were at the diner, and there was a bar top at the diner. There, he grabbed a shot glass,
two shot glasses
off the bar tops, and he puts jamon into the shot glasses, which bounces the
reflects back.
Reflects the laser beam eyeballs back at Straizo, and that's how Straizo dies.
It's fucking awesome.
It's so stupid. It's fucking so funny. Stupid because you really just see this man pull a whole ass shot glass, and he's just like, haha, you can't beat me because I just pulled these shot glasses out and I injected them with jamon.
And as he shoots his laser beams, like him intercepting the laser beams, like his pose, it's also like super, like, you know, flamboyant. It looks animated like super badass because all this shit is happening and it's being animated at the same time.
It looks super Prince, like
exactly. So like him just holding a couple of shot glasses together and reflecting this fucking thing on the most like careless way ever. It's just funny and cool to see at the same time because Straizo dies here.
Yeah, Straizo dies right here, but he's like, oh, just let me die a noble death, but go to Mexico. And so Joseph just does that. Like, he just, whole ass just jumps on a plane to Mexico from New York, and he beats a German soldier because the thing about this part of Mexico, which if you know about your history about World War II, Nazi Germany had tried to recruit Mexico at one point to sneak attack, destroy like America.
Correct.
So this is just built on that whole. It's a famous telegraph. I don't even remember. It's the Zimmerman telegraph.
No, yeah, it's
it's called the Zimmerman telegraph because that's how the United States found out, because we intercepted that telegraph first.
And that's why you see a lot of German, what do you call it? Like gene pool in Mexico.
That's after. So
no, correct.
After World War II, you're right.
Yeah.
Like the Nazis, fled to South America.
But the higher ups knew what the fuck was going on. They were the first one that got dibs on Mexico.
Right. But the thing about the Mexican government, let them do it because these German soldiers and German families that were part of the government had money, but not just money. They had real goods. They had stolen Jewish gold and actual solid tangible goods that they had taken from Germany with them.
It's a horrible thing that happened.
It's a terrible thing. And this whole section of JoJo's is based around the
genocide of the people.
Yeah, this whole narrative that Germany saw Mexico as an easy come up.
And it's a high power. And the German characters in this plot and this story, they're like, you're stupid. It's like, we're Germans, we got the best.
We got the greatest military. We got the greatest medicine.
Yeah,
all this shit.
And they're like, we're doing not only researching weapons. We're making allies with countries, and we're looking into dark magics and shit like that, and weird sciences. And they were doing that. In real life, they were really doing some weird shit. I love how they portray him here because it brings me back to Hellboy and how Hellboy the Nazis were involved with Rasputin, and they were in this necromancy kind of fucking world.
Yeah, whenever we see stuff like that, it's basically based around their technology a little bit and how power hungry Nazi Germany was.
They were Red Skull.
Captain America Red Skull.
You go Red and Scully with the power you want. You know what I'm saying?
And so that's exactly what happens. So Joseph, we get this super stupid scene where he's going to break into this German military occupied Mexico City base where the Pillarmen are by dressing up as a woman. And he sees that people walking into the town, especially the women,
are getting groped.
Are getting groped by the German soldiers at a checkpoint. Just I need to be able to see what things you're bringing into town. Lift up your dress so I can see what's underneath. And Joseph dresses up in this Mexican old school dress with exaggerated fucking makeup and blush and lipstick and all that shit.
Just drag.
But
just drag.
It's drag, but this dude's yoked, bro. He's like a fucking 6'8", 300-pound Englishman. You know what I mean? Like, you would see that shit in the Mexican desert. So right away, these German cops are like, no, dude. Like
you're a dude.
You're 1,000% a dude. I don't know what the fuck you're trying to do.
And he gets upset. Like, he gets almost like...
he's like, you don't like my drag. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, he gets offended. And I fucking hate this use of Hammond right here. Because I can't remember what he used to hit them with. But instead of... Okay, I can't remember what he used. Let's say it was rocks. But Hammond powers some rocks. Instead of hitting the soldiers with the rocks, he hits coconuts off this palm tree so that coconuts can fall on their head, and like it's like Looney Tunes, and it's just like you guys are knocked off.
But see, this is like the episode that I'm like, I love Joseph. Like, everything that is Joseph is the greatest.
Like, the whole little area might as well be a fucking Bugs Bunny episode, bro.
Bro, it's fucking it's Roadrunner and Coyote, bro.
No,
like,
bro, it's literally Bugs Bunny, bro. Like, when he dresses as drag and he like confuses Elmer Fudd and stuff.
No, you're
like
right.
That.
You're right. You're right.
Crazy,
but it's so funny that like this is the episode that solidifies just like Joseph's the fucking greatest, bro. Like, it's just so stupid funny. Like, it's so stupid entertaining. Like, if you're taking it even half seriously, like, stop it.
Yeah,
stop it.
Yeah, it's dumb fun, but you gotta pay attention.
Right, because like immediately from there we get like a cutback of like this German soldier Stroheim that we're following, and he's in front of this pillar with like these dudes in front of it with horns, and like he sees. I don't know. The German government is trying to like, or the German military is trying to like test these pillars with magical men inside of them as a new weapon almost.
And I believe at this point the Germans and von Stroheim, they already have the Speedwagon.
Yeah,
they already kidnapped him.
They kidnapped.
And they beat the shit out of him, put him in a wheelchair, bandage him up, and he's just there for the whole thing as they're experimenting on the pillar. And it's like a pillar as like just like a statue with a petrified big old crazy strong man on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're trying to wake it up.
They're trying to they're sacrificing people.
Yeah.
Like, they have, like, a cage, a prison of these Mexican prisoners from the town that they've invaded, and they do, like, a lottery system, or not even a lottery system. They straight up ask the prisoners, like, yo, who the fuck are we gonna sacrifice? And, like, the first person that raises their hand isn't gonna get sacrificed, but he has to watch everyone else get sacrificed to this pillar. Of people...
German shit. Just Nazi shit.
Just Nazis.
I'm sorry, not German shit. Nazi shit.
Just Nazis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just fucking Nazis. And that's what's so fucked up about it, because they wake up one of the Pillar Men, and Stroheim names him Santana.
Yeah.
Which is named after Santana, the guitar player from the fucking 1980s. Because, like, especially in part 2, every villain is named off of, like, music, American music from the 80s.
Yeah.
And the thing about this Pillar Man is that he can, like, bend his body in certain ways, and he's super strong, and within, like, 30 minutes, he learns how to speak English.
Yeah, he's a god, and that's how they refer him to, and he's in this vacuum space, and everybody's looking at him, but he's able to see the people working on the other side in the lab coats and stuff, and also Van Stroheim, and he sees everybody. And there's this exposition of how strong he is, and he ends up like making his bones squishy, and he ends up living through a vent, which is very, very cool animated. Like, it looks fucking weird, and he comes out of a duck and invades a person's body. Not really, I don't want to call it possessed, because that dude's still, like, conscious.
Right.
And he's like, yo, bro, he's inside of me. What the fuck is going on? And then he, like, implodes.
Yeah, and that's what's so yeah. I don't want to spend too much time here, because we've been spending so much time on these, like, 12, 13 episodes. But Joseph makes his way in there. He busts his way in. He's talking some dumb bullshit. But the huge, like, sacrificial scene here is that the Pillar Man, Santana, is like, Joseph needs to lead him up the stairs outside of this cave to expose him to sunlight. And the thing about Stroheim, he's also here. This is where we start getting sympathetic towards like a Nazi, because he gets super sacrificial. He's like, all my men just fucking died because I just woke up this Pillar Man. I'm gonna sacrifice myself to rig an explosion so that you can trick him out into the sunlight.
Yeah.
And
so you're just seeing like this Nazi character just sacrificing and being like, yo, dude, we gotta do this.
Yeah,
and we got to do this because it wasn't just the end of my soldiers. It will be the end of the Nazi regiment, which is bad. But then again, it will be the end of the world, or something, you know. But
so Joseph leads him outside. But the thing about that situation is now this Pillar Man, because he's able to like fold himself like several different ways, is inside of Stroheim.
He fucking shoves himself into Stroheim's like lump on his leg.
Yeah, because he cut off his leg to like try to get the Pillar Man outdoors.
Yeah. And he just explodes him. He rips him apart, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. So we get like that half hesitation from Joseph where he's like, throw a fucking grenade on me, fucking blow me up. We gotta get this vampire outside of me. Do it right fucking now. So he blows him up. The vampire's still alive. And his big plan here is that he's gonna go down a well. But Joseph, because it's high noon and the sun is straight overhead, he like uses the reflection of the water at the bottom of the well to reflect the sunlight up, and he's able to like grab like the vampire before he hits the bottom. And
yes, he has to keep Santana from hitting the water so he can protect himself from the UV light. Right. But using his jamon, he just like spreads like fucking Mission Impossible kind of thing on the walls. So he holds them in the fucking in the well, and he turns into stone. It's just a big wind right there. The rock body of Santana gets back into the custody of Speedwagon's foundation, and they're experimenting on that. But then we find out that this Pillar Man, it's only like the first boss of like this 3 group.
Like he was nobody compared to the main 3 Pillar Men that we're gonna fighting the rest of this excuse me, the rest of this season, because like there's another pillar that's found in Mexico. Again, all stupid. They awaken one of the guys, and it turns out to be this guy named Wamu, who's named after the band Wham from the 80s. And the thing about Wamu is that he has like he can make tornadoes and stuff.
He can control wind pretty much. It's like a wind bender
he's like a wind bender, which is like the Pillar Men powers feel like the lead up to stands from part 3 and part 4.
Almost like it almost seems like the stands in part 3 and part 4 are like the spirits and descendants of these fucking Pillar Men. Right,
because even right here, the Pillar Man tries to fight the German soldiers and JoJo, but I think we missed a part because we need to be introduced to Caesar.
Oh yeah,
because Speedwagon takes Santana to Washington D.C., which is their headquarters, but then Joseph and Speedwagon go to Rome to meet Caesar, and it's like a hilarious ass scene the first time Joseph meets Caesar, because he's sitting in a restaurant, he's eating spaghetti by himself.
Squid.
Yeah. He's eating pasta, and he sees some douchebag in the background saying like super corny shit to this girl to like try to pick her up, just like, "Oh, you are the most beautiful flower I've ever seen."
Just like an Italian fucking guy will be, you know.
That's like, it's super stereotypical Italian,
sweet talking, silver tongue Italian, just like sweet talking this girl in dinner that he's providing, and the sweet ass restaurant, like, you know, he's just sweet talking his girl, but he finds it annoying. He's like, this fucking guy.
So he tries like putting jamon into his noodles and shooting his noodles at this random man at this restaurant just to fuck him up. But what the guy ends up doing is like he
also puts jamon in his different kind of pasta, his penne pasta, which then captures noodles and sends them back. And it's almost like the throwback to the shot glass and the reflection.
Exactly.
And shoots him into
Joseph's wine glass.
But the thing is, right here, the cool little joke is that he pierced the wine glass with the penne pasta and then the noodle inside it. So Jojo has control of the noodles, and he releases the hamon from there, but then since he doesn't have the control over the hamon on the other pasta, the wine spills over him.
Right.
And he gets even more angry at him.
And again, fucking hamon does anything and everything all at the same time, except when it doesn't do exactly what you need, when we need a character to die.
Yeah.
But this is the grandson of Will Zappelli from part 1. This is Caesar Zappelli, who Caesar is my favorite character in season 1. Out of parts 1 and part 2, Caesar's my favorite.
Honestly, I think the Zappellis are my favorite characters.
I didn't like Will Zappelli that much, just because I think the anime fucked it up on how they introduced him. Like, it's only like 3-4 episodes that he's actually in it, and I'm supposed to care so fucking much. Caesar, we really get a whole season with Caesar. You know what I mean?
We get a whole arc with him.
And from here, Caesar, we go back to that situation with Wamu that we were previously trying to describe. And the only reason I brought that up is because Caesar's here at that same time. So it's Caesar, Speedwagon, Joseph, and they're in this cave at the bottom of this German Nazi fucking expedition, and they're here to defeat Wamu. But when they open up this cave and start shining light, they see like the
bodies everywhere,
the flushed out like corpse bodies with all the liquid sucked out of them, like when Dio
a skin, like a skin,
because
skin suit.
Yeah, because the Pillar Man, even though like again it's that hierarchy I was trying to describe, they're not exactly vampires, but they are vampires, but they're not vampires.
Like they just eat you as a snack. And not so much as nutrition. No.
They do as nutrition, but it's like, because the vampires, at this point with the introduction of the Pillarmen, the vampires are now the second totem in this horror villain hierarchy. Because first is the Pillarmen, who are described to be an entire civilization of like Mayans, Aztecian, you know what I mean, like Central American, South American,
indigenous
cultures who couldn't live in the daylight but were super powerful and stuff. And that's who the Pillarmen are. Mm-hmm. And then they created the mass, which made the vampires, and the vampires made the zombies, which made the second tier zombies. So they're a tier above what we saw Dio be last season. That's what it's trying to get across.
Yeah, there's and they always have these pieces of dialogues that like, oh, humans are still trash. So
I'm the ultimate being.
So they're not like, they're not humans. They're way past the point of being even. It might as well be aliens.
It's like how Neanderthals and Homo sapiens lived at the same time, but at a certain point, like Homo sapiens overtook Neanderthals. It's like that. You know what I mean? Like it's like a different species of.
It's like, you can't stand up, right, bro? It's like, look at me. Yeah.
It's like that, and we get a really fucked up scene here. Or like a cool ass fight, but it's really fucked up because Caesar Zappelli fights with Hamon bubbles, which means that he literally fires like soap bubbles at people, but they're filled with Hamon and they burst. And when they burst, like a little burst of Hamon comes out with it, and that's how he hurts people.
Yeah.
And so he tries doing that to Wamu here, and the rest of the Pillar Man wake up at the same time. We get Cards, we get AC/DC, and we have Wamu. And Wamu is like the lesser of all three of them. So he's like, I'm gonna fight these kids, Master Cars, Master AC/DC, y'all chill out while I beat these nobodies. And Caesar almost dies right here because they like hyper describe how Wamu's air attack works. Is it's like if he twists his right arm clockwise and his left arm counterclockwise, then he can make a mega tornado out of both of his hands.
Yeah, it's crazy because that's not how tornadoes work at all. But yeah, he gets fucked up. But then JoJo, in his like very selfish attitude that he's being portrayed to have, like without any context, he takes he takes on the danger with Wamu, and he leads them away from the fight.
Right.
And they fight for a little bit, and I think he lands a punch on Wamu.
Right.
And Wamu's like, "Yo, what the fuck?"
Yeah, no one's ever done that to me before, because no, it's not a punch. JoJo sees Caesar's bubble attack at the fountain when they first meet, and he feels super inadequate because he doesn't have a super Hamon power. So he gets like these like balls. They're like balls on a string.
Clackers. Yeah.
Clackers. Yeah, excuse me, clackers. And he fills the clackers with Hamon. And one of them, they're meant to come back because the Hamon's supposed to be drawn back to Joseph after after he uses them. So he misses with one of the clackers because it's still filled with Hamon. It comes back at him, and that's what ends up getting Wamu in the face, and it gives him a big ass scar and a cut.
And he gets offended, but then they escape. So Jojo leads Wamu away from Caesar and
right. He puts them on like a cart, like a mine cart,
and they just fucking sip away. And they're still fighting, but Wamu is so offended that he put a scratch on him because what we can tell so far at this point that Hamon damage on this pillar man, it looks glowy. Yeah. So we know that the scar looks glowy. So anyways, he's about to kill him. Wamu's about to kill Jojo, and he's like, you got a scratch on me, so you should feel good. I'm gonna kill you now. Jojo's like, okay, give me 30 days and I'll beat your ass. And he's like, what?
Because Joseph's like, he's a scammer, bro. Like he's got a silver tongue, you know what I mean? Like, so he tricks Wamu because he's super proud, and he's like, give me 30 days. So then we get 30 whole days of like letting Joseph and Caesar train. But first, Wamu puts like a ring of poison around Joseph's like aorta, like
to keep his promise.
Yeah, the biggest like artery around his heart, and then AC/DC puts a poison ring around like his urethra almost. Yeah. So that like after 33 days, if they haven't gotten the antidote from both their lip ring and like their nipple ring, I don't know what the fuck.
Like one of them, like the one on the heart will poison his heart, and the one on his like windpipe will crush his windpipe. Mm-hmm. So it's like overkill. Yeah, almost.
So you have 33 days to defeat both of these villains, and
like 25 of these days go on the span of like one or an episode and a half, because we go into this like trial where we meet Lisa, which was a trainer of Caesar, right? And we go into like this tower trial
because we go to Venice, right?
Yeah, we go to Venice, and they do this like oily tower climb.
It's called the Hell Climb Pillar, and it's like a pillar that's like endlessly just seeping oil. Because how the fuck does that happen?
A fountain.
Yeah, it's just a literal fountain of oil. Lisa dumps Caesar and Joseph at the bottom, and she's like, use Hamon to climb up.
To climb. Yeah.
To climb. To climb up. And like, Caesar can do it basically. It takes him days, like literal like a whole week to get up like the pillar. And Joseph's still at the bottom. He's like, wow, it's kind of crazy that Caesar can do that. I wonder how this is happening. And then
it's just like,
and at a certain point, he like gets it. He's like, oh, he's using the Hamon in his fingertips, and he's not like putting it in his palms and wasting it like I do. And we get like this crazy ass extra just like extra. Like it's a super extra scene where Joseph is climbing up, puts his hand inside of an opening in the pillar, which makes like an extra like spray of oil come out of the pillar.
Because the pillar is conscious, and the pillar does not accept any other way up the pillar if it's not Hamon. So there's this strict little tap towards, and yeah, it makes power or oil pressure so much that it's almost like a blade.
Right.
That you have to really concentrate your Hamon and in a specific part of your body at a specific time of a rate that you're climbing so you can get through the fucking thing.
Bro, you explained it perfectly, and that made no sense. That's exactly how it's described. Exactly. And that shit makes zero sense when it's happening. You're like, I fucking guess, dude. So, like...
So Caesar's plan was to... Instead of climbing vertically, he did the Dio stance, and instead of concentrating Hamon in a lot of places in his body, he only did it in less parts of his body on by the walking.
Of his feet.
By walking on the soles of his feet.
And Joseph tries using some dialogue where it's like, oh, he's using two types of Hamon at the same time. That's impossible. Which makes zero sense, but they bring it up later, which is the only reason I'm bringing it up now. And what Joseph does is he gets to that pillar that's jetting outward from this point in the pillar, and instead of walking over it like Caesar just did, he uses Hamon in the tips of his fingers to glide on the oil that's jetting outwards to hit the wall on the outside of the pillar so that he can climb up that way. Because it's less pressurized. I don't fucking know. It makes zero sense. But
we get to the top.
Caesar helped him up.
Yeah.
Caesar helps him up, and Lisa told them that they weren't supposed to help each other. But Caesar's like, he's my boy. We just spent like a whole week in this fucking.
I appreciate him so much during this like 2 episodes of like wall climbing.
I hate him. Yeah. Exactly. So then Lisa officially takes them on as apprentices. And again, the time lapses here don't make sense. We don't know how much time's actually passing here.
We get introduced to the other 2 instructors.
Right.
I can't remember their names.
They're just guys.
They're apprentices to Lisa, which we know that she's like the main Hamon person.
Loggins and Messina.
Yeah, and so each one of them takes Caesar, one of them takes Jojo, but Lisa puts this mask on Jojo.
Right. And it's supposed to help him control his breathing.
It's like the gym people like that have those breathing masks.
That's exactly what it looks like. It's just supposed to control your breathing and get your hormone up. Maybe those gym people just want to get their hormone up in the gym.
Yeah.
But we get a piece of exposition here from Lisa explaining the true motivation for the Pillar Man. It's like, I have this giant red stone, the red stone of Asia, and this is what
Stratos gave me.
Yeah, that Stratos gave me, and this is what the Pillar Man want. Because you see Cars, he has a stone mask from like part 1, but it has a huge hole like in the forehead because that's where the stone of Asia is supposed to go to make them a super extra special
to I guess in some way concentrate the power of the sun within their body.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You're so good at explaining this, and it makes no sense. And that's exactly what ends up happening. So you're right. They go with each other, and Loggins goes with Joseph. But the thing about Joseph is that when he goes to the training location where Loggins is at, he finds the Pillar Man AC/DC there, and he realized that AC/DC has already killed Loggins, and he's like, what the fuck, you weren't supposed to be here yet, it's only like 20 something days. And AC/DC's logic is like, our only goal is the red stone.
It's like, that was a side mission for me, bro. Like, I'm still trying to retrieve this fucking stone.
Yeah.
And they end up having the fight like fucking 4 days before,
and it's a wild ass fight
because they're standing on the like a pit of spikes. And the way that they make logic out of this is that the Hamon is being concentrated on that particular point on the spike, and that's why they can step around and stuff like that.
Makes no sense.
Anyways, fucking Jojo has a fucking wool fucking beanie, and he just fucking threads coaches himself into like a win.
Yeah, he makes like a long strand like trap out of the strand of his beanie that captures AC/DC, but at the same time AC/DC was laying out like his veins.
AC/DC has like boiling hot blood.
Yeah.
And if he gets you with his veins that he can like pull out of his body, like if he injects you with that, like you'll burn, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's this whole like back and forth because again, Jojo is so fucking dumbass, and he just has these quips to him, and they go back and forth. But yeah, he ends up setting a thread with his woolen beanie, trapping, not only trapping, but he predicted his movement and counterattack, and counterattacked his thing, and he ends up like cutting his head.
Yeah, he's able to just like inject him with Hamon because he traps him inside of Hamon, because the way he was able to lay the string, even with if AC/DC like cut the string in certain places, it was still connected. Doesn't make sense, but it works out. So AC/DC gets flooded with Hamon, and he erupts. But the only thing that's left of him is his brain and his spinal cord and some veins. Right. So from there,
JoJo sees his mom naked.
Yeah. JoJo goes to Lisa's dwelling to try to tell her that the Pillar Men are there. But instead of just walking in and, like, introducing himself...
He takes his sweet time.
Yeah, he's looking through the keyhole, and he sees that Lisa's taking a bath. So, like, this is, like, the only time in JoJo's we get straight butt cheeks. So we get to see Lisa's butt cheeks. And then from there, we see her assistant, Susie Q, this, like, dumbass fucking girl in Florence. I don't know why she's there.
And a good small plot thing that we missed. The mask during the fight with Wamu. Right? Wamu? That was the guy he just beat?
AC/DC.
I'm sorry, AC/DC. He knocked the mask off. So then, because he wasn't having the restriction of air circulation, now his Hamon is stronger. So that's how he beat him. So we meet Susie Q, and he's like, "Who the fuck are you? You're not." It's like, dude, my mask is off. It's like, this is JoJo, and they fall in love.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, you're a lot more handsome under the mask than I thought you'd be. And he's just like, oh, so you're calling me handsome then?
Like, let's make out.
Yeah,
and they just fall in love. Like, it's not really put into context ever, but they just fall in love.
She's in part 3. Like, they get married. Like, this is a huge thing. Like, this one interaction matters so much.
And they both get, now that they both seen Lisa naked, they went into the bathroom.
Well, what he ends up seeing outside of the bathroom is Susie Q is handing, like, a package to a delivery man that's going on a boat outside of the island that they're on outside of Florence. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, that's weird. But then he looks through the peephole and he sees that Susie Q is with Lisa, and he's like, how the fuck did she transfer between those locations that quickly? So he busts the fuck in, and he's like, Lisa, something's wrong with Susie Q. She's being a weird-ass sussy bitch.
She starts panicking, and we know that it's fucking AC/DC's fucking brain taking a hold of her, and he's just breaking her body apart, and this and that. And then Caesar comes in, he's like, what are you doing in Lisa's room, bro?
Because he's, like, in love with his mentor. He's like, oh, she's the greatest fucking woman to ever live. I love Lisa so much.
And the fucking, like, Hamon goes crazy again, because they're like, fuck, we gotta save Susie Lou. She's fucking being fucked up over here. And they're like, there's a piece of dialogue that's like, JoJo just positive Hamon on one end of her body,
and Caesar used negative Hamon on one side, and it turned negative Hamon, which meant that they could expunge AC/DC's brain spinal cord,
and then his brain comes out, and fucking dawn breaks, and it's just like this fucking Demon Slayer fucking thing again. And it's the fucking brain just like, oh, you bit me. And he then gets the antidote for the heart, right?
Yeah.
So that was a heart antidote. So now, again, we from there, they leave town. They leave Rome. Susie Q's all scarred up. But there was like this piece of dialogue that was like, hey, take care of your ugly face and I'll be back.
Yeah, he's like, make sure you don't turn old. Like, all this time I'm going to be gone because nobody likes wrinkles. And so they take off. They go to, like, Switzerland or something like that. So it's Caesar, Speedwagon, Lisa, and Joseph, and they're in, like, a ski resort or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they find this old hotel that both Cars and Wamu are using as a secret location to, like, hide before their official fight or whatever, because Wamu desperately wants a legit fight between him and Joseph. So they go to the mansion. Caesar tries to rush in, even though Joseph is like, you know what, they're vampires. They're probably used to, like, being prepared during the daytime so that they don't actually so that they're not under any threat, like, during the daytime. He's like, it'd be better if we went at night because they're not going to expect that at night. Caesar doesn't give a fuck because we get a bunch of exposition about, like, Caesar's backstory about how, even though he claims to be such a proud Zeppeli, he disavowed his Zeppeli name the entire time he was a teenager and a child because his father left his mother, which left Zeppeli to raise his siblings. But later on in life, he finds his father, who protected him from the Pillar Men at the Roman Colosseum from absorbing him into nutrition. And that's when he realizes that his father was there to he only left his mother to protect the family. And it's just like, what the fuck is this about, bro? Like,
it's fucking crazy. And yeah, we get he rushes the thing, and then
he rushes the old abandoned hotel, which used to be a castle.
And this is where the other guy is. What's his name?
Is it Speedway? Oh no, they meet up with one of the Hamon teachers. Yeah, whatever. He's there, and what they realize when they try to rush this hotel is that
what's the other guy's name? Not AC/DC. The other guy?
Cars. They fight cars right here.
Oh, okay.
So, well, it's Messina. So it's Messina. So it's Caesar and Messina are walking up to the hotel, and they find Wamu there. And Wamu is actually able to go out into the sun because he can use wind. He has air currents around him, which are able to reflect the sunlight so that he doesn't actually get hit, and he can, I don't know.
He has to move very quickly while he has this cover of like air crystals in his outer skin.
And this is where we get this sad ass fucking scene because Caesar goes all out, uses all the bubble hamon, all that shit, and he still gets his ass kicked by Wamu.
There's like 3 psych outs from Caesar at this point where he like it's all weak, but then he does something, and he ends up ripping the other antidote.
The nose ring out of Wamu, which is the antidote for his throat or whatever.
And he's all fucked up. Like, he's already been hit by the fucking tornado arm fucking thing.
Right.
And he pulls out the nose thing. He gets his bandana. He ties the fucking ring to this bandana. He uses the last of his hamon to make a protective bubble made out of his own blood to protect that bubble and his hamon and save it for when Jojo gets there.
Right.
And it's just fucking crazy because as he's using his power, like, the ceiling is crumbling, and for some reason is a fucking cross.
Yeah.
And it just lands on him.
Yeah, and it's super. I'm glad you brought up that imagery because that's exactly what's supposed to be. It's a sacrificial like use of Caesar right here because
Italian, Vatican, cross is just like
all that shit, bro. Because we get that bubble with his scarf in it and the antidote ring, and Joseph finds it, and it has the last bit of Caesar's hamon, and that's where we get like the crazy ass like. Well, my favorite express piece of dialogue in the sub, which is Joseph just screaming Caesar, like he's only known this dude for a month. He's known him for like 30 days and some change, and the emotion that like he feels like just losing this guy is just like overwhelming because in the dub like they perform it at like an 8.
Lost.
It's just like Caesar, oh no,
Caesar.
Yeah, which is so weak and fucking whack, bro. Like
the Japanese voice actors go hard on it.
They're not afraid. They're not embarrassed. You know what I mean? The
interviews with the guy that does like All Might, like they're amazing because he's just like going fucking berserk. But anyways, yeah, they show up to literal Caesar Zappelli's tomb.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the death of the Zappelli bloodline. That's why we don't see him again.
That's what reminds me of Caesar Zappelli is in part 5 where we get Giorno, because it's a blonde character. He's a lot thinner than the main. Well, even though Giorno's the main character, he's a lot thinner than how we've seen a lot of like JoJo's at this point. He's a lot more like effeminate and kept together, and he's a lot more suave and like like Caesar Zappelli was totally like the precursor to Giorno Giovanna. And from here on out, though, like we see Lisa and Joseph crying over Caesar dying, and they're going deeper in. You know what I mean? They're fighting lesser zombies and lesser vampires on the way to fight. Because Cars is hurt. Wamu is hurt. Mm-hmm. Wamu is hurt. They can see his blood trail, and that they're following that along the hotel grounds or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they know Cars is with him. And at a certain point, they get to the room that both of them are in. But it's just hundreds on hundreds of zombie vampires on the ceiling, and they're like, "Oh fuck! How the fuck are we gonna beat this?" Which Lisa using like the quick-witted. Like smooth talking skills that Joseph used earlier. She convinces both of them. She's like, "Hey, let's have a real battle in like a week from now." And and we can really decide who gets the use of the red stone.
Like, Jojo will fight Wamo and I'll fight you, or some shit like that.
And she'll fight cars or whatever. So we get like the next episode.
It's like a Roman like gladiator ring.
Right,
with chariots.
With chariots and all that. Chariots. Exactly. So Joseph and Wamu are going to fight on chariots. And the gimmick is, within every bit, their lesser zombies are going to put out like a weapon that they can use on each other.
Mm-hmm. But everything's rigged.
Everything's rigged.
Yeah, like the first 2 laps, everything's rigged. And fucking Jojo's fighting for his fucking life like R. Kelly was. And he just outsmarts him in a way because Jojo breaks his arms, but then fucking Wamu has this fucking anime moment where he gouges his fucking eyes out and he's just gonna feel the wind because that's his fucking power.
And it's gonna upgrade his motivation to the point that he can actually beat Joseph.
Correct. And then we see like this animated sequence that he knocks him out of his chariot, and Jojo is like pretending to fight for his life because he's throwing rocks at him as he's like almost killing him. Yeah. And he cuts off his body or his head, but he's using his horn now because we know that the Pillar Men use their horns as their like trump card.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's because Joseph was able to bank off a shot from like a ricocheted like cannonball that knocked off Wamu. And you're right. So it destroyed like half of his body. And then Wamu is just feeling the air currents, and he's going to use his magical super destructive tornado to tear up Joseph.
And he's still using his arms.
Right. His arms are detached from his body, but they're holding Joseph in place so that he can use a tornado attack.
So now he's using the wind as a power washer kind of thing. Pressure washer, I mean. And trying to aim blindlessly at Jojo through the wind.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's super scary because, like, it feels like it could actually happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's a piece of dialogue with Lisa and Cars that they're like, holy shit, this is about to happen. And all the soldiers are like, all the zombie soldiers are like, Wamu. And Jojo has this fucking plan that if he throws some oil as he's sucking up all this air, that he's gonna make him explode. But then Wamu cuts that fucking bottle of oil in half, and he's almost getting Jojo in the fucking head. But then Jojo was like, that was my plan all along, because now you have made oxygen and pretty much like a welding acetylene fucking tank, and he uses Caesar bandana, lights it on fire,
and that catches the oil on fire, which is then able to get Wamu on fire. So then Joseph ends up winning the fight.
Yeah.
And then, so Cars looks at Lisa and he's like, all right, I guess we get our one-on-one then. And then, we kind of get an exposition dump on Lisa right here, even though for like half an episode it's a fake exposition dump, and then we get the real story like later. Because what we learn from Joseph is that he goes through Lisa's belongings and he finds a picture of like what's his name? The first vampire we meet in part 2. Strias or
Striso.
So we see Striso, Speedwagon, Joseph's grandmother, and Lisa, and we know that she was raised by the Joestars or whatever. And we think from Joseph's perspective that she must have been the child that Irina saved from the boat in episode 9, right? Mm-hmm. So she loses to Cars because Cars never intended to act as upright as he was trying to be and as like honest as he was trying to make himself seem. He only cared about the rock this whole fucking time. So he used a double of himself, which was just a lesser zombie, and just came up behind Lisa and stabbed her in the back. The best Hamon user we have so far. And so then we get the real exposition dump, which is Lisa is actually the mother of Joseph, because when Elisa was pregnant at the end of episode 9, it was with Lisa. Yes. So this whole Irina. Excuse me. So this whole time that Joseph was like checking out Lisa and like seeing her naked and seeing her bath, that was his mom.
It's like Star Wars fucking Princess Leia Luke shit.
Yeah, it was his mom this whole fucking time. And so then Joseph has this newfound motivation to defeat Cars. But Kars now has both the mask and the Red Stone of Asia. But then the Nazis show up. But the Nazis are like the saving grace here because they all have their German technology and they can use UV lights on Kars to try to kill him like the sun would.
Like Van Stroheim came back like half Nazi, half like BMW, bro.
Right. He's a cyborg now. Like half of him is robot.
And he's using like mobile UV lights that Speedwagon Foundation helped fund, and they're just attacking on the zombies, and they give Jojo like a small break for air, you know, to catch up his breath. And Kars, he panics and he uses a mask.
Yeah, he uses the mask and he turns into the ultimate being. So at daybreak,
and it reminds me of like Howl's Moving Castle when he turns into like a bird.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like that character.
Because that's how Kars' hair looks right there. You're right. And we just see the sunlight in the background, but now he's the ultimate being. You know what I mean? Like now he is tied to all life on Earth. Like
he can swim, he can fly.
Right, so the sun comes up, the sunlight doesn't kill him anymore because he's basically not even a vampire. We see squirrels on the ground. Kars is able to turn his hand into a squirrel because he is tied to all living life on Earth at this point. So then, Joseph's like, how the fuck are we going to kill this all-powerful, all-life-giving vampire? And his bright idea is we are going to fly Kars over a volcano because magma, well, the anime says this. I don't know if this is actually true, but he says magma is the hottest thing on Earth. Mm-hmm. So his bright idea is to jump in a plane, and he knows Kars is going to follow him because Kars wants to murder him and prove himself as the ultimate being, which is kind of wild when you see it animated because he turns into like this big ass bird and like he's super destructive and he's shooting spikes out of his hand. He's destroying this plane that Joseph is flying, and Joseph just like nosedives into this fucking volcano, and Kars follows with him, and Joseph is able to trick him or like knock him into the magma. Mm-hmm. He's like, cool, we did it, we're done. But then Kars is like, what if I start like trying to generate the scaling of a crab and block myself from the magma?
It reminded me of the Futurama episode with the dog and Dogmite and how the dog survives in the magma like that. And then he comes out and he's like, haha, fuck you, I'm not dead. And for in a small certain amount of time, he gets the higher level on Jojo and shoots him with his laser eyes that we know everybody has at this point.
Right.
And he shoots through the core of the Earth, making the volcano.
Well, the only part I do want to bring up is that Kars, which we haven't described, has like these scythes that come out of his forearm.
Chainsaws thing.
Yeah, they're chainsaws that come out of his forearm and they generate light. But the only reason it's important right here is that he cuts off Joseph's left arm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does.
Which does end up being important in part 3.
Yeah.
So you're right. So he gets up on the elevated ground. He uses the laser beam eyes. We assume Joseph to be dead. And we think that he's like punctured like the core of the Earth or some shit. Mm-hmm. So then Joseph knocks Kars into space. I don't even remember how he did it.
With the laser attack, he initiated the super eruption because he was powered by Hamon of this volcano, which shot this slab they were both standing on, and he just shot him up, and he got too far that he couldn't use his bird powers, so he went up to the fucking stratosphere, and he started freezing. And I like this how they did space good here, and they just killed him off. Yeah. They're like, space is too powerful for anybody.
So technically in like the JoJo's universe, Kars is still just floating around.
Yeah. and they have this very dark piece of dialogue where it's like his body turned into stone and he couldn't kill himself. His mind was still awake, but then at some point it dimmed out and there was nothing left of him.
And that's the end of Battle Tendency.
Yeah. And we get one last episode when we get a time skip too.
Oh yeah,
we start part 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And part 3, let us know on Twitter, Instagram, our email, betweenerspodcast@gmail.com if you want us to watch part 3. Next month, we've been getting so much positive feedback from our ReZero episode. We will be watching season 2 of ReZero, and we'll invite back John Michael Venegas for sure. No Nerd Down for today. This is already a long episode, over just 26 episodes. Sorry, no Nerd Down. But at the end of this episode, I just want to reiterate to everybody to please use hashtag EducatedNerd Nerds. That is EDUCTADE, or educated, however you spell it. Nerds, NERDS. And for every like and retweet on Instagram or Twitter, we will be donating to the EPISD Foundation, which gives money back to both the El Paso Independent School District students for their regular schoolwork and for their secondary education, meaning college.
Nerds, that has been Between Nerds. Thank you for joining us today, and join us next week.
Oh, and we're watching Jujutsu Kaisen this week. The Studio Mappa, blockbuster shonen anime hit. Please watch with us. That's it. Bye. This has been Between
Nerds.